the cuts from 1,000 knives I hear call. But I'm still stumbling in the dark, a silent howl, as I dissolve into your arms. I waited now, seduced by a sweet mirage. We could live or we could stay, sedated, stayed wide awake. I can do this anymore, it's hurting like it never has before. We could live or we could stay, sedated, stayed wide awake.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to round 8 of the Octane Online Simrigs Sprint Series. My name is Tim Gobe. Joining me in the comms box today is on the cameras, the one, the only, Glenn Germain. He is back. And joining me for commentating duties is Blake Griffiths. How are you, Blake?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks, Tim. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. We're back with Split Yellow. As some people may have known, we did not have a stream last week due to Glenn being absent with some IRL duties, but he is back and we now have a stream once more. So I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, I feel like after my own endurance battle with Dakota 12 Hour, it's been now a fortnight since I've been in the booth. So I feel it's nice to be back. My heart is warm and I'm ready for some racing, and it needs to be warm because it's pretty wet out there today, Tim.
It is very wet. Laguna known for its rainy season, as we're currently looking at the beautiful BMW of Ivan Lee, as I think they're currently going out for qualifying. I think he's still on his out lap, so we'll see. Definitely exciting. I mean, you still got your work cut out for you. You've got a double commentary stint coming up, so good luck with that.
Thank you.
As Ivan Lee goes out for his first banker of the day as he goes through T1 and T2. Very technical part of the track here. It's another one of these double apexes. It's a bit awkward to take, but he seems to manage it pretty well as he now goes through turn 3. Again, these two corners, you got to be on the gas very early. Go as wide as you can here, but not too wide. You do not want to hit the sand as it can cause a car to do a bit of a spin. But so far, so good for Ivan Lee as he now goes through turn 5. And now there's another very balls-deep, tricky corner coming up, which is turn 6. You want to basically hit the inside of that curb, and he does slightly miss it there. But that's the line you want to take and go very wide, and there as we're looking at Wesley Yao goes a bit sideways there in the Porsche. It is very wet and slippery, but he does manage to keep it on track, so it's looking like he's gonna get his first lap in. It's not gonna be his best time, obviously, with that bit of a slide, but he still has 8 minutes 40 seconds to go. Set another time, and he's currently on I think that is a 29-1 for Wesley Yao. Currently on provisional pole is Glory Babby in the 27s, the first car in the 27s, closely followed by Lucas Keys, which is currently on a 28.2.
Yeah, pretty massive time already there from Glory Babby, hitting the 27s, just sneaking in under the full second mark. Just a note, if you see any just plain cars running around tonight, there's been a little bit of a bug with the livery upload bot. It's taken a day off, so there's a few cars that are just going to look a little bit blank. I know Lucas Keys wouldn't be caught dead with a blank car, for sure, at least not on purpose. So yeah, just keep that in note. But Glory Babby is already 3/10 up. Which will be good enough for pole again, but Benfield actually just pipped that previous best time from Babby by about 50 hundredths of a second, so the competition is fierce. As we see Keys just dipping a tire there into the sand, probably was very wet sand, but he might want to get out of the way if he doesn't want to hold up Babby too much here. He's still valid technically though, so he doesn't necessarily have to. Babby actually pulling out of that one, so going to put some, probably not, I don't know if he needs to put new boots on, but he's back in the pits for the moment.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Glory Babby. He was basically almost 5/10 up and just ended up catching some traffic, and this has nothing to do with Lucas Keys. He did nothing wrong. He's just doing his lap. Perhaps he did a bit of a mistake, but it was still valid, but that did cost Babby his provisional pole time. But he still has time to go back out and go for another one. It's not the end of the world, as we have Lucas Keys currently on provisional pole now with a 27.5, 4/10 up from Benefield in P2. And we're currently expecting Benefield, and he's a bit up on his delta, and not quite enough to catch Lucas, as he does end up losing on the entry, but gains the tiniest bit on exit here. It's just not going to be enough to pass Lucas, but he's still going to be in the 27th. In fact, he's not at 27.9 now. That is absolutely flying on this track.
Yeah, I'm surprised he still improved. It looked like he took too much of the inside there, but I'm not gonna say I'm a maestro at this track whatsoever, but I imagine there's probably a little bit of time to find there. It looked very bumpy to me, but it's a nice livery for Brian Kong. That's clean, like it.
That is very clean, as Brian Kong now is on a 28, and that'd be good enough for provisional P4. As we now look at Jaden Rondinella, currently P13, but he's going to improve massively to a 28.2. That puts him in P4 for this qualifying session. 8 tenths behind Lucas Keys. And it looks like Lucas Keys has improved a bit. He's now on a 27.462, so he must have found some time somewhere out there, as we're back with Benefield, currently 4 tenths up, and in fact, I did lose a bit for the corkscrew there, but I was gonna say, if he keeps improving there, he could pass Lucas for provisional pole, but he's still got 2 corners to go, so let's see what he does here. Now, it goes a bit wide there onto the sand. That hasn't seemed to have cost him that much, and he gains massively through the final corner here, but loses a bit on exit, so it'd be good enough for 3 tenths up, just not quite good enough to pass Lucas Keys, and it's gonna be a 27.565 for Benefield, and he's only 1 tenth down from Lucas, so Lucas is really gonna have to perhaps press on the accelerator here, as it looks like this field is really starting to bunch up now at the front, as we're now back with Glory Babby, who is currently 5 tenths up now. Now that's another driver that Lucas is going to have to worry about, because 5 tenths up over here, and he's still got over half the track to go through. So perhaps you could see a pole position from Glory Babby, but I will not talk too much. I do not want to ruin his lap, as he now goes through the infamous corkscrew of Laguna Seca and gains massively over here. He's now 6 tenths up. That will be good enough to jump Lucas for pole position if he manages to make it stick, and he does end up gaining even more at the exit here as he goes for the second last corner. He's now 8 tenths up. We might even be able to see perhaps a 26 if he does manage to nail that final corner, which he does manage to nail, and it's not going to be quite enough for 26, but he's currently 7.5 tenths up, and that should be good enough for pole position here at the Laguna Seca, and it is good enough for pole position with a 27.252 for Glory Babby. Absolutely massive lap coming from Babby here.
Yeah, that was absolutely masterful, just putting, I think, everything together there, and pipping Lucas Keys by 2 tenths of a second is no small feat. I do think we have a few guys here that still have a little bit left on the table, a few moves left in the bag. We saw Benefield actually just touching the sand on the second to last corner of the exit of that corner, and then losing a little bit on the last corner, so he still has a little bit in his bag, so I don't think it's all said and done. Still 3 minutes to go. Ben Hignett actually having pretty nice qualifying, and he now is challenging for that top spot. 5 tenths and change now. He's looking pretty good. He's looking good. Whoa, just a little bit of a slide out onto that sand. It's not quite affecting these guys as much as I would have thought. And he gains a bit and loses a lot through the exit of the final corner. It's still 4 tenths, so it's going to be enough for P3 as it stands. It's not going to be enough for P3 as it stands. You're a lot better at math than I am, Tim. So he's going to have to go around one more time. But Benefield actually still improving. As I said, still had a little bit in his bag. So we'll see. It's really not over. A couple of yellow flags dotted around the track. Oh my, everyone's having a little bit of trouble.
That's very much a stand what you've got kind of track, and that does not help with the wet conditions. These guys really slipping around, sliding a lot, just finding the maximum potential of their car. As Benefield now is over 3 tenths up, he might even be quick enough for pole position, but he does end up losing on the final corner. But I think he does have enough to pass Lucas Keys, and he does have enough, and he's only 0.085 behind Glory Babby for provisional P2, as there is still a minute and 50 seconds left of this qualifying. But I think so far this battle at the front for pole position is really starting to spice up, as we're now looking at Joshua Vediger currently on a 27.8 in the Coke Zero Mustang, as he now heads towards Corkscrew, and see what the big fat American V8 has in its tank over here. He does gain massively, and he does end up sliding off track, perhaps going a bit too deep here. So that'll be invalidated, but I think he has enough to go around again, but he decided, you know what, that's enough. P5 will do just fine for me, and decides to RTG back to pits as we're back on board with Lucas Keys. Not really finding much time in the GTR. He doesn't really have a response to the top two in front of him. I think he is trying to go back around for one final push lap as he has slowed down here and setting up the gap to do one more lap. Let's see what Lucas Keys has. Definitely not to be underestimated, this driver. Extremely quick, so let's see what he can do in the big GTR. It's already gains massively through T1 here, but does go a bit wide and ends up losing it all on exit. Not massive losses. So let's see what else he's got here. I know he can do a 26 here. I've seen him do 26s here before in the wet. So let's see what he can do here as he goes around turn 4. He's still down on the delta, still 0.15 down. Now goes around turn 6. Again, we want to go basically get right over that curb here, but don't touch the sand, especially if you're gonna go on the accelerator early. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like he's managing to find the time, unless all his time's in the final sector. But he's going to have to find a lot over here now, as he only has 3 corners to go from here. So it's not, as he goes around turn 9, as we're now back with Glory Babby still going around. He's still on pole position and doesn't gain on this lap, but so far still P1. And Lucas Keys has decided to bring it back to pits, do a small pit stop practice, as he has not managed to find an answer, as we see car 992 getting a 10-place grid penalty for a rejoin during qualifying. So that just sounds like some kind of unsafe rejoin from the 992 of, I think, is Wesley Yao. So that's very unfortunate. That is not what you want after a qualifying session. So that will put him down to P21 for that mistake of his. So that is very unfortunate, but that means everyone behind him up to P21 will gain 1 position in qualifying. So all these other drivers, I reckon, are going to be pretty happy about that.
You take what you can get, that's for sure. But yeah, pretty interesting qualifying there. Lucas Keys just not quite not quite able to put it all together, I would say. Obviously, extremely talented driver, but hats off to Glory Babby. He was able to put all that together and is rewarded with P1. Nice inside line for T1 and 2. Do they count that as? Oh my god, they count the kink on the straight as a corner, so technically the hairpin is 2. Vomit.
You don't even want to know about corner numbers when it comes to the corkscrew. The entry to this corkscrew is turn 8. The exit is turn 8A.
I just saw that.
Yeah, so it could be worse. I don't know why they didn't just name that turn 9 and then turn 9, turn 10, turn 10, turn 11, and make it a 12 corner track. But no, it's an 11 corner track. Corkscrew has the same number at the entry and exit of it. It's just a little quirks of this track.
The kink before it is a corner, but the kink before that kink isn't a corner, and the kink before that kink isn't a corner either. I don't understand. And also, if it's going to be 8A, just make it 9. Like, if you're bothering to note it, just give it another number. Ugh, unbelievable. I have words for whoever runs the circuit. But our qualifying results, Mr. Glay, if you could jump us up. Actually, no, I remember who's at the top. So it's Glory Babby from Daniel Benefield, from Lucas Keys, from Ben Hignett, from Josh Vedegar, from Dylan McDowell, from Aaron Lee, I believe that is, from Layla Bell, from Michael Clark
in P9 as an AM driver. Look at that.
That's fresh. That's funky fresh. That's real nice. Well done, Michael. And Jaden Rodinella rounding out your top 10, and that Jaden actually the first silver class car. I thought Layla Bell was in silver as well. Let me just consult my spreadsheet. No, she's Pro-Am, apparently.
She used to be silver, went absent for a season, I think, and then came back as a Pro-Am. But she definitely has the pace as she's showing here, currently P8, and as well as Michael Clark in P4. Now, a lot of people are going to say, he's driving an Aston. It doesn't matter what car you drive. You're an AM driver. You managed to bring in the top 10. You can be driving any car. You'd be stoked with that result. So he's going to be happy, and he's going to be hoping to make it stick in the race. So we're going to be keeping an eye on Michael Clark. But currently, he's well clear of the other AM drivers of Ashley Vediger and Byrne, currently in P20 and 21. So,
yeah, it's absolutely massive. I mean, that's a silver-worthy drive. He's literally ahead of the entire silver class. So we'll see. You know, it's not just pace; it's about consistency. So we'll see what he can do during the race. But you are absolutely cheering with that result for sure. As we are getting underway with our formation lap, single file, everyone nice, neat, and tidy. 120 kilometers, please, Glory Babby. Oh, we don't get to... Wait, yes we do. Look at that. 118, perfect. As Tim's just had to step out for a moment, so you're stuck with me on the formation lap. So we have one stop today. It is for fuel. Tires are not mandatory. I believe the fueling time is fixed at 25 seconds though, which normally might entice you to take tires, as it would only be 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I hope it's not 5 minutes. 5 seconds extra. However, in the wet conditions, it's really not necessary to change the tires. They will last you the whole race. Unless you're in split red, you should definitely change your tires. But yeah,
Right.
just coming up the hill. Welcome back, Timothy. Is your name actually Timothy, or is it?
No, it's just Tim. On my birth certificate, it's Tim. I know it's weird. A lot of people think it's Timothy. No, it's Tim. It's nothing special about my name. It's not like John Ryan where they messed up his name. His first name
John's
is
got all the
Ryan.
special.
All right, as we're currently going through turn 9 now, and these guys should be going double file right around here, and they are. It just seems a bit late for double filing, but you know they still got a couple corners to do it. It is a very big field. This is a very small track, so also wondering how they're going to deal with blue flags here. It's not the widest of tracks. It's gonna be a bit of chaos as they go around for the final corner now. Yeah.
Would you like to do race start, Tim, or would you like to?
I'll do it. It's all right. It's all good. As Glory Babby leads us to the start-finish line. All these drivers anticipating the start over here as we get boogity. Let's go racing on Laguna Seca, and we get a good start from Lucas Keys, but he has to check up a bit on the McLaren of Glory Babby, and Glory Babby kind of closing the inside and manages to hold the lead as we have the Ferrari of Hignett attacking Lucas Keys out on the outside and makes up one position. Lucas Keys currently down one position as he's closely followed by Joshua Vediger behind him now, and it looks like we're already getting a small battle going on at the front between Lucas and Benjamin Hignett, but so far so good. That was a pretty clean start, a bit messy at the back, but it's looking like these drivers are managing to get back on track, as now Lucas Keys looking down the inside of Benjamin Hignett. Hignett going a bit wide, touching the sand there, which slows up his exit a bit, but Lucas not managing to get past him here as we're currently looking at the battlefield, and as we see, Hignett goes way wide here, and that gives the position back to Lucas Keys. And so far, so good. That's looking like a very good first lap over here. Pretty clean at the back as well. As we're looking at Layla Bell now, she has made up a few positions. She's passed Aaron Lee, and I think a couple more cars. I think she was in P8, so she has made up a couple positions here as they go around the final corner. So pretty good start from a couple drivers. There's more passes being made at the back in the background here, and we now have Glory Babby with the first fastest lap of the session with a 1:31.305. But obviously that was just the first lap, so it's going to get much faster from here on out. As Michael Clark, unfortunately, looking like he's lost a lot of positions here. Wondering what happened to him. He was in P9 and he's now all the way back down to P23. So not the start he was looking for. So hopefully we'll get a replay of that. That is a bit of a heartbreak, but it's not the end of the world. It is a 1 hour race. There's still a lot that could happen, and I believe that Michael Clark can fight his way back up from here on out, as we're now back to spectating Joshua Wediger now on the back of Benjamin Hignett.
Yeah, we've also got a few cars opting to pit lap 1. I believe that was Harry Murphy, and I don't remember the other one, truth be told. We did see a few people come a cropper on the first lap, but as you said, I think David Baker is the other one. But I think the main field, the peloton, if you will, not having a big incident is good enough for me, frankly. As you see, Wediger is actually quite racy here on Ben Hignett. He's having had a little bit of a look up the inside, but nothing quite doing. But he's going to need to start looking backwards as well. It's Layla Bell in that Porsche, which is just chef's kiss in the wet, is all over his rear wing right now. So, oh, Lucas Keys has opted to pit as well, so maybe just wanting to get out of that kerfuffle that's developing at the front for himself right now.
Yeah, he's probably honestly looking for clean air as well and trying to go for the undercut to the cars in front of him. He does not want to get himself into a battle. There's still cars in the background sliding as we're still looking. We're looking at Layla Bell, and it's looking like she's made up ground to Joshua Wediger here, as Wediger looks down the inside of Benjamin Hignett and does appear to make the move stick. But we have Layla Bell now getting involved in that battle. It's now a three-way battle, and it looks like Aaron Lee also starting to get involved behind Layla. And Aaron Lee actually looking down the inside of Layla Bell. She did look like she went a bit squirmy. It's a bit tight to go around in the corkscrew here. Hopefully they get through it pretty cleanly, and it's looking like they did manage to get through very clean. So Aaron Lee managing to get past Layla Bell. Now Aaron Lee is going to be the one hunting down Benjamin Hignett in the Ferrari. Now Hignett's looking like he's struggling a bit here in the race. He had a good qualifying, but so far not the best start for him, as he has gone wide a couple of times and lost a few positions from that, as we have Glory Babby setting another fastest time with a 27.395. So Babby absolutely flying out there.
I just noticed how far ahead Babby is already. It's been like this is the third lap, is it not? He's got 2 seconds on Benefield, and then there's 6 seconds back to Wediger. That is wild. And that jump in pace from lap to lap was insane too. Jeez Louise.
And they're already starting to get into blue flag traffic, as there is the number 64. Ronald goes a bit slidey there, but keeps it on track still. These drivers really seem to be pushing right here. He once again goes very wide. You really don't want to be touching the sand here. It really compromises the exit of well, every corner, to be completely honest. And it's looking like now Wediger is managing to build a small gap to Hignett. But yeah, these two, Babby and Benefield, really building a big gap to P3 now. That they've got absolutely massive pace over here. And I think within the next lap, they're already going to start blue flags. As we have an old Coda shield showing up here. And we're now looking at Michael Clark, and let's see what happened. He's got collected by Harry Smiles, so that's none of his fault, to be completely honest. Smiles probably underestimated the speed of the car ahead, but I expect a penalty from that one. But that is very unfortunate for Michael Clark. He was absolutely flying out there as an AM driver, as Hignett goes very deep here, and he's probably going to lose a few positions from that small mistake, but he does manage to stay ahead of Aaron Lee. But he's not going to be wanting to do this any more times, as they are now pretty much on his rear bumper, and they're going to be trying to get through him.
Yeah, he's just looking a little bit scrappy right now, Hignett. He's having a few expeditions into the sand like he's some kind of archaeologist. I'm a bit surprised that Lee and Bell haven't been able to get past him so far, but they've looked a little bit squirrely themselves, so We'll see if people can settle down just a little bit. See Lee just getting a little bit wide there, but yeah, for now it's just going to be who can keep it the cleanest, as Lee has a little bit of a run on Hignett as they come up to the corkscrew, but it's just probably one of the most difficult places to pass, and Lee's gone very, very deep. I think he's holding onto that position from Layla Bell, but oi, oi, oi.
Yes, definitely. He wants to get around Hignett, but at the same time, he's going to have to defend from Layla Bell, and it's looking like now he's more focused on defending, as Hignett does have a bit of a breather behind him now with that small mistake from Aaron Lee, as we see more cars going into pit.
It looks like in the background, McDowell has gotten ahead of Rondinella. Yeah, the timing report just confirming that. So that Porsche is, as I said, just absolutely magnificent in the wet, and it's proving so. GTR, no slouch, but it is a pretty tricky car to drive.
The Porsche is absolutely fantastic in the wet, I can confirm. But I've said this multiple times, yes, the car can help, but it's also about driver skill, as Layla Bell does go very wide there. Doesn't seem to have cost her much. But like I said, especially in these kinds of wet conditions where it's not flooded, it's light rain, it's a bit slidey here and there, but it's not too bad. It's very manageable.
Is that a Thai thing calling this light rain? It's pretty bloody wet out there, Tim.
I mean, it is pretty wet, but it could be worse. It could be worse. I don't see many puddles out there.
No, it's definitely, it's not flooded, but it's bona fide wet, that's for sure.
As we're now, if you look at the time board, look at Michael Clark, actually. He's managed to go back up to P19 on pace alone, as the cars that he passed, he was behind all the other AM drivers before, and none of them have done their pit stops yet, so he has managed to get past a few cars. So Clark absolutely flying out there. So like I said, he has 50 minutes to go here, so we can still pull something out of this. It is not the end of the world for Michael Clark, as Layla goes very deep here, ends up going very deep on the outside, and now she's under threat from Dylan McDowell, looking to get around her as well. So this battle definitely not calming down. In fact, it's getting much more intense as more cars are starting to get involved here. As we're not looking
sorry to jump in, but it looks like Hong also got in front of Rondinella. So Rondinella just having a bit of a struggle as these cars are side by side, bit of a dip into the sand. Oh, there's a touch as well. Is that Stockton, or that must be Stockton? Oi, oi, oi.
Yeah, that was the Ferrari of Stockton, and that's now in the middle of all of this.
Slade is like ahead of them as well, so there's been a lot of movement within this group. So Lee is ahead of them, and then Slade is behind Stockton. Oh, these guys it's a fierce battle happening here as they're coming up through corkscrew. Oh, side by side, and there's a bit of a touch, and they both slide. Oh, it's such a difficult place to pass, and they're nearly 3 wide there.
Rain of cars going down for the corkscrew. That is terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying, especially that specific corner where you can't even see until you actually start going down. That is absolutely terrifying, and these guys not afraid to just really just send it around that corkscrew. But so far so good, they've managed to keep it clean. But just look at that train of cars behind that BMW of Ivan Lee, which is currently P9. So Ivan Lee really managing that race really well, and now in the top 10 for it, and right followed closely behind him is the Audi of Kafil Slade.
Yeah, also just Rondinella actually losing out big time there, down to P15, starting, I believe, P10. On the flip side, Clark up quite a few positions after that little incident, and Wesley Yao has gone up about 7 positions after getting that qualifying penalty. So Wesley Yao in 14th now, started in 21st, so good recovery drive so far from Yao.
Yep, definitely agree. As we're back with Harry Smiles. I'm surprised Harry Smiles hasn't gotten a penalty for that, for taking out Michael Clark there. So maybe the steward saw something that I did not. But if he got away with it, then he's currently in P12. He's going to be happy with that.
There was, I think, at least one or two instances. We just have one coming up that happened before that. So Jared Byrne getting a 10-second penalty for a collision, I believe that was. But it also should probably be noted that Clark does have a bit of latency issues. So I'm not sure if they account for that when it comes to collisions. And I mean, they can look at all the telemetry and this and that. But yeah, we should see something coming through.
Yeah, Clark does not have the best connection at the moment. He was red earlier, but now he's back down to yellow, so he should be okay now. As we're now back with Wesley. Yeah, Wesley are really fighting for the pack. They started P21, and now they're back up to P15 in the fight for silver. Currently closely following behind Jaden Rondinella. And yeah, Jaden Rondinella not having the best of races so far. Looks like he's had a couple mistakes here and there, and he's just started to fall down the field, but he's still within that silver pack. So he's still currently provisionally P3 for silver, but he's going to be wanting much more than that, especially at Suzuka, where he got a good top 10 finish. So this is not the type of finish he wants. He wants to be in the top 10. In fact, he wants to be way up in the top 5. But he's got a lot of work ahead of him, but there's still 47 minutes of this race to go. Anything could happen, like I said, multiple times, as they now go around through the corkscrew for turn 8 and turn 8A. But there is a very, very big train behind him. There's Neil Wood, Steve Lewis, and Clark about 5 seconds behind? Or is that a blue flag behind him? I'm not sure. In the timing board, it says Clark is right.
Yeah, that's Clark back there in that pink Aston Martin, yeah. So you've got Wood and Lewis just behind Wesley Yao, and I believe they're teammates in the matching liveried cars, the Ratuma Spin guys. So yeah, that looks all fine and dandy to me.
They are indeed teammates. It's just so good seeing two team cars racing next to each other. Just I don't know. Is there something about having two cars of the same livery racing side by side with each other? As we have Lucas Keys now currently with the fastest lap of the race. He's done a 27.230. So these times that they're setting are pretty much on par with their qualifying times. Especially Lucas. I know Lucas Keys will have close to a full, well, maybe not close to a full tank anymore. There's 45 minutes to go, but he did pit very early on, so he probably has a lot more fuel than the guys ahead of him. So he's absolutely flying out there, and it's...
Oh, someone ahead of him is way off the track there. I think that's Ashley... no, it's not Ashley Dedica. Frusta. Yeah, good call. So just having a bit of an adventure off in the sand.
Yeah, that missing texture BMW, I can spot it from a miles away. I've said this multiple times in the past. I absolutely love this livery. I get a bit of nostalgia from it, from the good old Gary's Mod days.
Yeah. It's so
really,
good.
really like
it's
that
a really
livery.
Nice, low effort livery, I guess. Like, you just cover the car and send it on the track. But yeah, it's really fun. It's good bit.
Low effort, but nostalgic.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with a nice low effort livery. You don't want to spend like a million years on a livery. I mean, you love making them, but Layla Bell actually copying a 10-second penalty. I don't think we saw that.
It's the tire barrier. The pit entry on Laguna Seca is very, very awkward. It's a very tight turn there. So he does end up collecting the barrier bit.
So jumping back in on this battle pack, jumping on board with Jaden Rondinella. So Jaden still holding down P14, stabilized a little bit, but he's 4/10 the car ahead, 4/10 the car behind. It's going to be hard going here, hard slog up the hill as we come to the corkscrew, on the brakes, get the anchors down, get it round, looking all fine. But yeah, Jaden just, he's going to have to lock in if he wants to get back in that top 10.
Definitely agree with you on that one. But he can do it. I know Jaden, he's very mostly calm driver. We've had a nice battles in the past, but he's getting close to these two BMWs, and we do see a small mistake from the BMW of Perkins here, so that might be enough. And Jaden is looking down the inside here. It's just his X is just not quite good enough to get onside the BMW, which is surprising coming out the GTR there. So perhaps that mistake from Perkins not as substantial as I expected. But so far, Perkins managing to stay ahead of that GTR, but Jaden really starting to show the nose of his car to that BMW, hoping for a mistake here as they're going around. What corner is that? Where's my track map?
It's
P4. Third four. Third four, yeah.
Corner 4.
I think I'll go around for turn 5, but yeah, Loopty really putting the pressure, but he's going to have to be careful as he does have the 992 of Wesley Yao right behind him as well, so he's not in the clear to just put pressures on the BMWs ahead, as he will have to deal with that Porsche behind as they go around the blue flag car right about now. Now they go around. Perkins really trying to look down the inside of Harry Smiles, doesn't have the opportunity to make the pass up, pulls out, but that again just gives Loopty the opportunity to just show his nose that it does get a bit bouncy, and now Wesley Yao goes alongside that GTR of Rondinella, just doesn't manage to make the move stick as he was most likely not going to happen around the outside there. But Loopty managed to stay ahead, gets a bit slidey there. The Porsche obviously better on traction than the GTR in these conditions, but the GTR does have that massive acceleration boost that it's known for. So once again, Wesley Yao not managing to get around Loopty, and Loopty not managing to get around that BMW of Perkins. So this is a very exciting battle going on, as it's a mix of defense and attacking basically. So really looking forward to what happens there, and let's hope for no heartbreaks between these drivers. Just keep it clean, as I think I just saw a car flashing ahead, so let's hope that was just temporary. It's Wesley are really showing the nose of his car to Loopty now.
These guys are on bloody tow rope at the moment. They're just completely inseparable. There's a little bit more of a gap between them now, but I'm sure it'll come back. They'll all come back together in a bit of an accordion effect here. Going down corkscrew one more time. Harry Smiles there, cutting quite a lot. You know, careful, you might get might use up a bit of a speed token there if you're not careful.
Perhaps he did. He has 3 of them to use. It's not the end of the world if you have to use one. But now Loopty once again just getting back to the back of that BMW. He just seems to be able to get close. He's just not quite fast enough currently to be able to get around him, and that could be a mix of Perkins perhaps doing small mistakes but not substantial enough to give Loopty the overlap to get around him. Especially in these wet conditions, he's going to be covered in spray, so that just makes it so you can't see anything. So every time you get close to these cars ahead of you in these wet conditions, you just can't see anything with the spray. So that is most likely also playing a factor in these battles.
Yeah, it's not the easiest track in the world to overtake on, even in the dry, so I'm not surprised that they're having a bit of trouble getting around each other. I think it is one of those tracks that you're probably more capitalizing on a mistake, more so than just getting a really nice move done. But these guys just not really, there's a mistake here, a mistake there, they're just trading them, so it doesn't really, it's not been enough as of yet for anything to happen.
Yeah, it's like minor mistakes, nothing major yet so far, at least not major enough to give the opportunity for an overtake. Again, Jaden looking down the inside of Perkins, just they can't force Perkins into a mistake. I think he's trying to force that BMW to doing some kind of mistakes, perhaps go wide around turn 1, giving him the opportunity to go around the inside, but just Perkins just not falling for it. Again, that's probably the experience coming in from the BMW, but now looking like they are going side by side, but Loopty decided to pull out of it, and this is exactly what I was talking about. Perkins going wide there, that is exactly what Jaden needed to make that move, and he does manage to make it stick, but Perkins going back in the inside of Rondinella, and they're side by side, into turn 4, and it looked like Perkins might be able to hold the position as Harry Smiles goes a bit sideways there and ends up going off track, and there's a bit of contact ahead. And now that battle is really starting to spice up. It's looking like Wesley actually ended up losing the most out of that. Now Luke looking around the outside of Perkins, but Perkins managing to hold this position. So he, even though he did go wide around turn 1, he did manage to just hold on. So that is fantastic racing. Unfortunately, we have lost a car through their own mistakes, to be fair. But it's looking like Smiles has lost a few positions. And in fact, Smiles decided to return to garage as it shows them being in the pits currently. So maybe they decided to hang up the towel, and that's enough racing for him today.
Yeah, that's a bit rough for Smiles. It was a really good battle happening there. I mean, also for immediate commentator's curse, we're talking about small mistakes here and there and blah, blah, blah. And then someone goes and makes a big one. But hats off to Perkins with that defense there. They did not give up after making that mistake in T1 and were able to force the issue, continue down the inside and force one to null it wide. And then obviously a bit of an opportunity there with Smiles just getting turned around. Was able to hold on to that position. So well done, Perkins. But yeah, Wesley Yao losing out pretty massively there, unfortunately. But I mean, that's racing, baby. Michael Clark actually got ahead of Wood in all of that kerfuffle. So you win some, you lose some.
He's getting closer. We can see him behind Jaden. There he is right there. Now he's on the back of Wesley Yao. So we've mentioned Michael Clark before, but he does have the pace here, and he's slowly but surely closing the gap as we now see this little slide from Harry Smiles here. So he did slide a bit there. Now he slides here, and unfortunately holds the brake. Just nothing else he could have really done here, and he decides to reverse and just
yeah.
does he not go back to... Oh no! And now we see why he went back to pits. He ends up taking out,
I think that's Lucas Keys.
Oh no!
Oh, okay. I understand the return to pits there. The first incident, it happens. He held the brakes. It was pretty good. But massive, just off full throttle and just sent it all the way around. So stewards will have a look at that one. But I mean, Smiles not really racing anymore, so it doesn't really matter. But unfortunately, Keys, that is a sad GTR.
That is a very sad GTR indeed. And he did nothing wrong there. It's just too much gas coming from Smiles with the slick, surface of the track. It's looking like Lucas Keys not giving up. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna go back out there. I'm not done yet.
He's wiped the sweat off his brow. And he said, "Let's go. It's not over till it's over." Hats off to you, Lucas. Love the spirit.
I expect him to be a bit angry driving, though. I don't think he would have been, even if he's going back on track, I don't think he would have been too pleased with that. At the same time, knowing Lucas, he's probably laughing it off right now in TeamSpeak. Because that's just what he does. He's just
I mean, look,
likes to laugh
Lucas
things
Keys
off.
Is a connoisseur of content. He would be a hypocrite if he didn't enjoy what just happened, at least in some capacity, because it was good content.
Yeah, he was. He still has that competitor in him. He still wants to win.
I mean, it was rough. It's literally racing, though. Like, you know, I was sort of touching on it before in terms of making a move, but so yeah, stop and go 10 for Harry Smiles there. So interestingly, that incident with Clark obviously didn't get penalized, but because the track is a little bit of train tracks, there's not really any alternate lines you can be taking. When someone is sideways across the racing line, it is a bit difficult to avoid them, and we saw that in both those incidents.
And that was definitely unfortunate. But he's back on track. He's back down to P23. I expect he's going to try and fight back up now, as we have the 471 on Hignet also in the pits, and he's now 20 positions down. I'm not sure if he went in the pits for his pit stop, or perhaps he's also had a incident of his own.
It says he's 2 laps down, yeah, so something might have happened there.
Yes, I think something happened to Hignett indeed, as we're now on board with
So Lucas's view of the incident we have been discussing.
Yeah, and he just, Smile just ends up spinning around. He thought he had the gap, but he didn't. That would have caused a meatball. It's looking like, I'm not sure if Lucas RCG'd. I think he just drove back to the pits, honestly.
I mean, I guess it's the go, because RCGing puts you a lap down, does it not?
Yeah, it's looking like Lucas might actually end up getting a blue flag here if Glory Babby manages to catch him. But that's easier said than done, especially now Lucas is really going to be pushing to get as far up the grid as possible.
I mean, Lucas has absolutely nothing to lose. There's Babby just doing his best WRC impression there. I don't want to do too many of those.
Did end up going very wide there, but Benefield's not that far behind, so he can't really afford doing too many mistakes because Benefield is looking at closing the gap here.
Interestingly, Layla Bell has inherited P3 after whatever happened to Hignett, so we're just looking for a replay of that standby, but Bell obviously carrying that 10-second invoice, but right now that would only put her in P4. Brian Kong 8 seconds behind McDowell, who's just opted to pit, so hopefully she can keep the pace and end up with a pretty good result here if she just keeps it on track, but yeah.
We'll have to see after a pit stop, because that 10-second penalty, since she has not done her pit stop, she will have to serve that 10 seconds in the pits. So we will have to see what happens and what she does end up going for a pit stop, which some of these drivers will start doing here. Usually the safe strategy, if people don't know what they want to do, they'll go 50-50, and there is just over half race distance left to go. So I expect to see a lot more cars coming in to do their stops, as we have 2 drivers now, Byrne and Vediger, currently serving their one and only pit stop. So I expect a lot more of these guys ahead, as we have Clark now in P11.
Hey, so don't jinx it. Some people have ended up doing more than one pit stop, a la Lucas Keys. It's not all sunshine and roses.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But like I said, Clark really managing to go back up the field. Now, obviously, there is also a few drivers that have ended up doing their pit stops, so he might lose a few positions once he does back his stop, but he's really fighting his way back up. And that pink Aston, obviously the Aston strong in these conditions, but also Clark showing that he himself is a strong driver in wet conditions. So, and he's getting rewarded for it, almost in the top 10, almost back in the top 10 as an AM driver. It really shows us that qualifying result wasn't a fluke. He does have the pace, as he does end up going for his pit stop now, and we'll see where he ends up once he gets out the pits.
So there's got a few people just coming through the pits now. Glenn just whispering in my ear, he wonders if Hignett accidentally put dries on the car, because he did end up 2 laps behind, which is quite a lot, unless something in real life came up or something like that. So I think that's a pretty good theory. Yeah, so just getting through that, he pitted, did a lap, and came back immediately. So I reckon this court is ready to sentence him to, I don't know, 2 pit stops. There's no sentence. That's just a bit of a bungle, isn't it?
Oh, 2 pit stops. No, it wouldn't have been the first time someone has put dries on.
Yeah, Aiden Squires. Imagine starting a race on dry tires when it's actively raining and you're in England. Who'd do that? But yeah, so as you sort of said, not everyone's doing 1 pit stop, unfortunately. This is racing, baby.
It's like over half the field has pitted now.
Oh, Babby just dropping the sausage curb, bit of a slide.
Now Benefield really closing the gap, and he's right on his rear bumper now. So now we have a battle for the lead, and Benefield looking down the inside of the McLaren of Babby. Babby once again
Babby
going
super
very
deep.
wide.
Oh,
On the rest of Benefield, it's like we have a path for the lead, and Benefield has taken the lead of the race, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Babby cannot be affording to make mistakes like this, as Benefield was right behind, and now Benefield has taken the lead of the race, and Babby going in for his pit stop. He decided now it's a good time to pit and try to do some damage limitation, perhaps looking for an undercut on Benefield here, but Benefield does manage to take the lead of the race due to the mistake of Glory Babby.
Wow, so Glory Babby jumping in the pits, probably splashing water on the face. I think just got caught slipping there. Benefield just has always been within about 2 seconds, which is just enough to capitalize on a mistake, and that was a bit of a mistake there from Babby, just catching that sausage curve and going extremely wide, well, off the track, mind you, and Benefield just absolutely able to capitalize on that. I was really lucky they didn't come a guts down through the corkscrew, because I thought Babby went kind of deep and then shot out the other side. I was absolutely clenching my toes there.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about earlier. I did mention Benefield was only a couple seconds behind when we first saw Babby do a couple mistakes, and it was mentioned that if he kept doing mistakes like this, and this one was a bit more on the major side of things, Benefield would have the opportunity to go for a pass, and it's looking like he did manage to go for a pass. Now, I'm wondering what Benefield is going to do here, because he did see Babby go for his pit stop, so I'm wondering if he's going to respond with a pit stop of his own.
Do you think, like, is there much of an undercut to be had, really? It's not like there's a tire delta. Like, if you're feeling good, I'd just keep going, you know?
Yeah, but at the same time, Babby has shown that he does have pace here, and if Benefield does not pit, although Benefield is in clean air, and Babby does have the Ferrari of Stockton in front of him, so he wants to stay in clean air for a couple of laps. But
yeah,
Babby
there's a
still
bit of
has the
a
pace.
Sorry, tried to cut you off there. There's a bit of a pack ahead of Benefield, which will probably catch in a handful of minutes. I mean, it's Layla Bell and it's Vediger and that pack, so they're not exactly slow, but given the pace difference that he's had, he will catch them in a couple of laps. So maybe as you're coming up to that pack, you probably start pitting or thinking about pitting, but we'll see. I've said that he'll come into the pits this lap, so, you know.
We'll have to see, but Benefield opting to stay out for now. Just wondering if he'll have the pace differential to Glory Babby, because Glory Babby will most likely have the pace to come back for that, and if Benefield does not have the pace, then he'll get jumped again once he goes for his pit stop. But we will see. Benefield has managed to stay within 2 seconds of Glory Babby this entire race, so he definitely does have the pace. He was definitely fast enough to make that move for P1, so definitely not to be ignored, as there's a massive pack here, and it's looking like Lucas Keys has managed to get ahead of McDowell. I think that's Lucas Keys, or is that him unlapping himself? I think Lucas Keys did end up getting lapped, so that is him unlapping himself on most of these cars. So that puts them in a bit of an awkward situation as Lucas Keys goes around the Ford of, I think that is Paul Kranich.
Yeah, it's Kranich.
It's a bit confusing with a lot of these cars not having liveries due to the livery bot going on holiday, but there's a big battle. There's a Porsche going sideways right ahead of Lucas Keys here.
Flashbacks.
Looking like they've managed to keep it on track.
Paul just opted to get out of their way. Doesn't necessarily have to, but a very gentlemanly thing to do.
Paul is a gentleman. He always has these interesting strategies where he'll pit on one of the last laps, so he won't do his pit stop until the very end here. But he's currently...
Babby just had a bit of a moment through the corkscrew. It looks like he's going and fine again, but he was definitely yellowed. We have the 959 car as well, actually, just very, very slow, coming through Rainy Curve. Nope, that's not Rainy Curve, that's turn 10, sorry. But yeah, so Babby just maybe a little bit shaken after what transpired a few laps ago. He's got Wood ahead of him. That's not... Yes, that is Wood, sorry. So that is... It's technically for position, but it's kind of just on track. It's not real. So we'll see if Wood wants to give that up or if he wants to have a bit of a race.
Reckon he'll want to race it, but I reckon Babby's hoping for Wood to just give him the position, as he is currently in a battle for P1 and being held up by a car, and Wood did end up actually moving out the way somewhat. He does not have to lift because they're technically fighting for position, even though Babby's a whole pit stop ahead. But he did manage to get around Wood, but that would have slowed him down a bit, especially since Benefield himself is in clean air. That is not ideal for Glory Babby.
Here's that moment with Glory Babby. So just approaching the corkscrew on the brakes, turning in, a bit too much curb on the inside. Yeah, it gives you a bit of a kick around. Oh, big slide. So yeah, just sort of continues on. He slid all the way around. Didn't stall a car. Oh. Nearly reversed into someone. That was a bit spicy. I don't know. Okay, we've got it. We're ponying the right way, and we are going. Yeah, that was a little bit rough.
That inside on the entry, and there's another car off track there. I think that was the 959 of Steve Lewis. But yeah, the entry to that corkscrew, it's very bumpy. That green AstroTurf looking area, you really don't want to be driving on top of that. It's nasty and bumpy, and it does end up doing that to your car. That is not what Babby wants. I think and as we see now, Benefield going into pits, he's going to be clear ahead of Babby, especially with that mistake.
He should be.
I expect him to be clear ahead, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, unless Benefield's had a moment we haven't seen, he should be well clear of Babby. Babby, he's coming up to turn 6 now. I think, Benefield was just starting to approach that pack we were talking about earlier. So, I'm a master analyst, if you didn't know.
We'll see as Babby goes on the corkscrew again. Let's hope for no mistakes this time. As goes through turn 8A, and this time keeps it clean. But Benefield's now starting to move again, and he's going to be well clear of the McLaren. He's going to be massively clear of Glory Babby here, and we do have a 10-second penalty for Benjamin Hignett for a collision on lap 23, so I'm wondering what's happened there. But now Babby now about to cross the start-finish line, and Benefield's already around turn 1 and 2, or turn 1. I think that's just one corner number, as we check. No, it's turn 2. Oh yeah, turn 1's that little kick before it. Yeah, gotcha. But now Benefield way clear, but he is in the middle of a couple of cars here. He does manage. I think those are all blue flag. That's all blue flag traffic. But now Benefield with a big lead over Glory Babby. I think that's like a 14-second lead.
Yeah, Benefield just absolutely in the driver's seat right now. Just has to keep it cool, keep it calm, keep it steady. Just bring this one home. Babby, so Babby's 7 seconds to Rondinella, and the timing board isn't even. So 6 seconds to Benefield. So over 10 seconds probably.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But Benefield keeping a nice, clean drive over here. It's a lot of it. This is a lot of wet racing, I've noticed. Just as long as you keep it clean, usually you can gain a few positions from other drivers making mistakes. All these guys are they're more likely to make mistakes in these conditions. It's much more slippery, much more slick. There's puddles everywhere. And Laguna Seca is a track where it's very easy, at least for me, to do mistakes, as we're now on.
So this is Ben Hignett.
Ben Hignett just of that BMW.
Just so heat-seeking missile into the side of Frostrock there. That's rough going.
Frostrock was just a passenger in that one. He did absolutely nothing wrong. Did do a small mistake there, but he can't make as many mistakes as he wants. If he get rear-ended from behind, it's the driver behind's fault. As we're back with Benefield with that massive lead, and all he has to do now is just keep it clean. He does not have to be the fastest on track. He's got a big gap to the cars behind, so all he has to do is keep it relatively clean, as the stream is frozen for me now.
Okay, good. It's not just me this time.
Yeah. Wondering if
Glenn?
Glenn is still here.
He's still here. He's okay. The stream is stopped, Glenn, at least for us.
Oh, it's back. It's back, and we're back to the start finish straight.
YouTube chat, give us a shout if it's broken on the YouTube stream, please. If it's fine, also say that so we know. But so far, nothing happened while we were stopped. Benefield's still in the lead. Jaden Rondinella 7 seconds back, but yet to pit. Neil Wood coming into the pits now, so everything's normal. Everyone stop panicking.
And Benefield has had a fantastic race so far. He's kept it clean, and it's rewarded him with currently P1 in the race.
Okay, thank you, YouTube chat. They're saying it's all good. So it's just a Discord issue. Unbelievable Discord. Just looking down the board, Layla Bell up to P6 with the Ratuma Spin guys pitting. So even with that invoice, it's looking pretty good for her. And our closest battles, I mean, Paul Cranich 3/10 off the back of Slade, but again, it's not really for position. He still has to pit, but Lee is 2/10 from the back of Cranich. Beyond that, Wesley Yao very, very close to the back of Perkins in that battle for the final podium position of the silver class. So perhaps we can jump over there and have a look. Oi! So Wesley Yao ahead of Perkins as we jump in, but having a mistake as soon as we look. Oh, a bit of a shoulder barge.
Barged by Perkins. That was a bit naughty. Wesley Yao just gave him the room there, and the Perkins decided to barge his way through. I expect perhaps a small invoice for that one. That was a bit of a bump pass from Perkins.
Glenn saying absolutely non-political F1 things silently in the background. Don't mind him. But yeah, Yao just a bit hard done by there. I mean, we didn't really see how that developed, but looking a little bit rough for sure. And also, now there's not even a battle happening. I called it out and we jumped on board, and now that it's more than a second gap now, so...
You guys got to be careful. If we look in the background there, in the background of Wesley Yao, there's Michael Clark there in the Aston, really fighting his way through. I'm cheering for Michael Clark. He did not deserve what happened to him in T1. I was hoping for him to get a top 10, but currently he's P15, well ahead of all the other AM drivers. So I'm cheering for Michael Clark here, even though I'm a commentator, I'm not supposed to have any bias towards other drivers. But when I see an AM do extremely well in a field of stacked drivers, I'm always going to be cheering for them, and you will never change my mind, as we're now looking at Ivan Lee, currently in P10, and that's P10 on merit. So Ivan Lee having a good race of his own, and there's still a couple of cars ahead of him that haven't pitted. So Jaden Rondinella and Paul Cranich, and he's right on the rear bumper of Paul Cranich. So he definitely has P9 and possibly P8 if he manages to jump Rondinella. I think he is close enough to Rondinella to be able to jump him. Rondinella not being in the best position the last time we talked about him. So we will see. I'm wondering if Paul is going to let Ivan Lee through, as it's not really his battle, as he does end up going very wide there, but it's looking like Paul just wants to battle a bit, have a bit of fun here. That's what these drivers want to do, so I think that's going to be a very exciting battle between these two, and with Ivan Lee having to move out the way a bit as he almost collects the rear end of that Mustang. But so far so good, as it is frozen once more. So I'm unsure what's going on, as it is come back, and yeah, Ivan Lee really putting the pressure on Paul Cranich ahead of him, and right behind them is the 62 of Aaron Lee. So he's going to want to get a move on here.
So this is Wesley Yao and Lee Perkins. So this is So this is before we were on board with them. So yeah, looking down the inside, it hits the sausage and it just sends Perkins kind of wide. So I wonder if there's just tips it into the sand as well. So
Bit of revenge.
yeah, not too sure. Well, I mean, yeah. Sorry, but like, it's a bit messy all over, isn't it? Really.
You shouldn't really be retaliating, okay? Just call your number, keep racing, but at the same time, who am I to talk?
I don't think that was intentional. Like, I think they're both going to get an invoice after all that's said and done, so it's going to be net zero probably. But yeah, just quite sloppy there. I mean, like, if you've not gone down the inside, you're gonna you might mess up your braking marker. I don't think that was malicious at all. I think it was just a bit of a whoopsie. As Kranich has a bit of a whoopsie there, collects the sausage curd, does a bit of a bunny hop. Ivan Lee gonna have a look down the inside, but it's not quite there for him. Kranich, interestingly, defending this harder than anything we've seen, and now Lee is at the mercy of Lee behind him. In that GTR looking quite racy, so it's a tricky position that Ivan Lee finds himself in the BMW here.
Kranich, one of the admins of OR as well, having raced behind him before, he doesn't seem to fall under pressure, as it now Aaron Lee does manage to make the pass on Ivan Lee, and gets up to P10 for it. I dare say Kranich had a play in that. But now Aaron Lee's going to have to try and get around that Mustang. But I think he's having fun. He doesn't want to give position, and he doesn't have to give position. You know, the best they can do is try and get around and wait for him to go for his pit stop. But I know for a fact that these guys behind are going to be a bit frustrated. I know I'd be cursing a bit because, you know, they're technically ahead of Kranich here.
I mean, he absolutely doesn't have to give it up. There's nothing.
Exactly.
It's up to you. And we saw Kranich give up positions earlier to other people. So I guess I think it's one of those things. It's maybe like, I mean, you want to race people, you know, like they're clearly the pace is similar-ish. You don't really want to just be laughing by yourself. So I understand it. And, you know, sometimes it's more just like, if you ever make a mistake, like, yeah, go ahead, get around me. But like, you see Lee just getting through there, but at times it's like, I'm not just going to give it to you. So yeah,
there's a mix of mentality when it comes to situations like this, as we see Kranich going back around the inside of Aaron Lee, so he's definitely not wanting to give his position. He wants to have fun. There's a bit of contact there, and it's a bit of a heartbreak there between Aaron Lee and Paul Kranich now. Wondering what's
I looked away for 1 second, but Ivan Lee comes ahead of all that. Ivan Lee gets to shoot through. Uh-oh. Is Paul going to RTG? Paul RTGs. Aaron Lee gets it turned around, and back away we go. But it's a sad-looking GTR. It's not the first sad-looking GTR we've seen tonight, as that's Wood, I believe, just shooting on through. So a bit of a rough go there.
All right, now that GTR is bopped, it's got the same acceleration as all the other cars now. That's unfortunate for Aaron Lee. A flappy bonnet is a sad bonnet, and he has a very, very flappy bonnet, and it's going to cost him a lot on exits. But someone that's going to benefit from this is the only Jaden Rondinella, who hasn't pitted yet, but with that incident between Aaron Lee and Kranich, I expect Jaden to be gaining a position from there. If I remember correctly, I think he was behind Aaron Lee. Don't hold my word on that.
Yeah, I think so. They were definitely in that sort of field together there, but the Rondinella opting to let Babby through. But yeah, I'm interested. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it always seems funny when there's only one or two cars that haven't pitted and choose not to. But there's not any reason for him to pit, like, particularly. It's just a matter of traffic with, like, the conditions in terms of the rain. You know, the tires are fine.
Yeah, I expect to see Loopty hitting one of the final laps. There is 8.5 minutes left to go of this race, and he's one of 2 drivers that haven't served their pit stops yet, and one of them decided to RTG race over. So all in all, Loopty's pretty much the last driver to not have pitted here. So wondering what his strategy is here, perhaps going for it on the last lap, or perhaps something a bit more malicious when it comes to this track. I'm not sure if you can do
what
it.
What does that mean? That's so ominous.
They've been talking about a specific strat you can do in Laguna Seca. I don't know the full details, but I'm wondering if Jaden Rondinella here is going to do a Scarny strat. But we will have to see. We will see. I think his plan is just to pit on the last lap, as Leigh Perkins does get a 10-second penalty for that contact that they had with who was it again? I think it was Yao.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Perkins got a penalty and not Yao, because Yao did also, unless they're looking at Yao's one now.
Yeah. I mean, Yao's one happened first, but I hope
this race...
in a row, or what's... No, they're getting 20 seconds.
That is Why 2 penalties in a row.
That can't be right. Perkins didn't cause the first one. Yao ran over the curb and went wide into Perkins, or am I like insane? Can I get some steward in the chat, please?
Talk about Garney strat. We see that Mike Craig in the chat said that strat will be frowned upon, I'd say, by the stewards, and I definitely agree on that. But I don't think that's what he's doing. I think he knows that it's
Alright, Ben Curtis just chiming in, which I don't know why I ever even vaguely go against what the stewards say, because they always do this to me. So saying that Perkins was moving under braking for turn 1. So fair enough, fair play. Rough go for Perkins, that's going to drop them way down. Well, rough go, I mean, them's the brakes, baby. But yeah, so Rondinella. So what's this Scarny strategy? You cannot enlighten us, please. You can't allude to it. You can't call it malicious and then not explain it.
I don't know the full details of it. You'd have to ask someone else to explain it to you. I just know that it's a bit of a naughty strat, but I don't think he's gonna be doing that. I think he knows better, and I think if he did go for that strat, it's gonna get protested, and he's gonna get a penalty for it. I think he's just going to do for one of the last lap pits. But if he does do that strat, if I remember correctly, he'll manage to hold P3. If I remember correctly, it's a quirky thing about.
Is it exploiting a glitch or something?
Yes, pretty much. It's pretty much an exploit that you should not be doing.
Okay. Well, the thing is it's not gonna fly. They're just gonna give him whatever time you're supposed to have.
It's not gonna fly. He's going to get the penalty you usually get if you don't end up doing your pit stop, which is like a 150-second penalty or something like that. It's a massive penalty. But I don't think he's going to be doing that. Loopty knows better than to use exploits. But we will see. I think he's just trying to build as big of a gap as possible. As I'm still looking at Michael Clark. Michael Clark's now in P13, but he's back with the red connection, so I'm hoping he does not teleport around. But if he's still on track, usually the race director will be looking at that. So if RD says it's okay, then it's okay. But he's only 0.4 behind Wesley Yao. So Wesley Yao not 100% in the clear, as he's now looking for a move at the corkscrew. Oh my God. Michael Clark really pushing that Aston now. He wants that top 10. He's currently P13. He's only 3 positions away from said top 10. So we will see as we see Kranich get a 10-second, well, not a 10-second, a drive-through penalty for that collision with Aaron Lee.
So Mike Crick in the chat expanding on this Scani strategy, air quotes, saying that the pit line and the finish line line up in a specific way that can allow for a free stop on the last lap. I don't think that's going to fly anyway, because it's, well, like, I don't know. I don't think the race director is going to allow that, but we'll see if that's what Rondanella is actually trying. Rondanella might just do a regular pit stop at the end. We might just be blowing a whole bunch of smoke into this, and it's not really a thing. But we'll see what happens.
We'll see. I don't think that's what he's doing. As we see the BMW of Perkins going sideways, and that does end up giving Michael Clark another position, and now Michael Clark is going to go side by side with Wesley Yao. Just not quite enough overlap to make the move stick here. I say that he was completely side by side, so he did have overlap. He just didn't manage to make it stick as they now go down through Porsche. But Michael Clark really hungry for that position.
Michael Clark, after everything that happened, it's not going to be a top 10, but getting even that close as an AM driver is so good. It's unbelievable.
You just got to believe. You've got to believe in the Aston. You've got to believe in Michael Clark. Right now, he's representing the AM drivers, showing people that AM drivers do know how to race. So I think he's still ahead of Rondanella when Rondanella goes for his stop. So let's see, it's a potential P11 here if he stays where he is.
I mean, if Rondanella does that, what we were talking about, I don't know what penalty they're going to give him, but we'll see what happens.
Apparently, Jaden Rondanella is staying out, but there is over a minute and a half left, so I think
he'd have to come in now, which implies that he is going to do it.
No, he's not going to do it.
But he has to come in at the end of this lap, does he not?
Yes, he does. He has to come in at the end of this lap. I believe in Luke. He's not that malicious of a person. He's a lovely bloke to be around. He's better than this. But let's hope he doesn't do that.
I think, there's going to be one more lap, because Benefield doesn't have a minute left to go in terms of their lap that they're doing. So, but I don't really remember how it works explicitly, but I don't know. We'll see. Benefield, though, what a lovely race this has been for Benefield. Just kept it so consistent, so clean, navigated the traffic, navigated the weather, capitalized on that mistake, 12 seconds ahead of Glory Babby. Take a bow, mate. That's lovely.
It's a fantastic drive from Daniel Benefield as he now heads for his final lap of the race. All he has to do now is keep it on track. He's 12 seconds ahead of Glory Babby, way in the clear. He could be driving, well, maybe not as slow as he can, but, he can relax. He doesn't need to take any more risks from now on. Babby's just too far behind. So it's looking like Jaden Rondanella has not pitted, so he is going to go for that naughty strat. I'm wondering how that's gonna pan out with the stewards, as we have a yellow car. Our cameraman says not very well. I tend to agree it's unfair to the other drivers. But we'll see. Perhaps he's just shooting. He's shooting a shot here. He's seeing if he can do it.
That's Wesley Yao.
That is Wesley Yao.
Very precarious position as well.
P11 here.
Oh yeah. Wesley Yao doing the right thing though, holding the brakes, waiting till a safe gap in the traffic. That's Glory Babby coming down the corkscrew now, but plenty of space there. Babby will probably pass by. I mean, Babby ahead anyway, but nicely done there by Yao. Nice safe rejoin. Take notes, everyone.
So Benefield goes down the start, finish straight, and Benefield will win this race on Laguna Seca. What a fantastic drive from Daniel Benefield. And Glory Babby, I would love to say closely following behind, but he is following behind, and we'll have to settle for P2 as we see Rondinella finally going for his pit stop, and he's doing that naughty strat.
Just quickly before Vediga comes through, Perkins getting a drive-through. I'm not sure. I would assume that's for track limits because we didn't see any pop-up, which is interesting to say the least. But Vediga coming through P4. McDowell actually fighting Bell right to the last moment. It's going to be the last corner, and it's literally, you can only tell by the numbers, but it looks like McDowell is going to hang on to P5. Layla Bell, P6. Well, we'll see what happens with Rondinella, I guess. Bell doing pretty well after that 10-second penalty. Brian Kong coming through in P6. So we watch Rondinella go away.
And that means he is quote-unquote P9, so that's a massive jump in position, because he would have crossed the start-finish line now, and he's now P9. So
right, I see. So you're not doing like the pit exit and everything, so you're not losing that extra time.
You don't lose as much time as you would with a regular pit stop, which means he does jump up to P8 actually. And as we see, Michael Clark in the top 10. I told you he was gonna get it. He gets back in the top 10. You know what? My driver of the day right here, Michael Clark. That was a fantastic drive from him. He's been thrown in the wall on lap 1, and he manages to fight back for a top 10 finish as an AM driver. That was a massive drive from Michael Clark. Absolutely lovely from him.
So, chat saying that it didn't work. Mike Crick. Well, I guess it is Michael Crick, isn't it? Saying that it didn't work. And Matt Powell, who's probably the race director, saying that it worked and that the game gave it to him, but it didn't change where he finished. Is that correct? Because I feel like Rondinella was fighting down more in P11, but we'll see, and Matt probably knows. But interesting to say the least. As we have a couple of cars just finishing up. So your driver of the day is Michael Clark.
It's 100% Michael Clark, and with Igor saying, Gubby, why not loop the driver of the day? Because he tried to do a naughty.
Oh no, has Baker run out of fuel?
Oh, I reckon Baker has run out of fuel.
Yes!
Just keep pushing him.
Yes!
This is some car stuff right here.
David Baker in the chat just saying, can I get a push? I love it. He blew his engine. Oh no, it wasn't fuel. That's crazy.
Let me see the chat. Can I get a push?
Can I get a jump start? What a race that was.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, my driver of the day, definitely. Michael Clark. As we have our overall right now, our top 10, Daniel Battlefield will take the win from Glory Babby, will have to settle for P2. Joshua Vediger will finish the top 3, followed by Dylan McDowell, and Layla Bell will close up the top 5. Our silver class drivers, our P1 will be Brian Kong, followed by Jaden Rondinella, and followed by Perkins in P3. Our Pro-Am standings will be Layla Bell in P1 with a fantastic drive. She has managed to get a P5 overall from that, followed by Ivan Lee, another good drive, followed by Stockton in P3. Our AM drivers, my personal driver of the day, Michael Clark, finishing in P1 with a massive gap. In fact, a lap ahead of Byrne in P2, followed by Vediger in P3. That was...
Are you locking in Michael Clark, driver of the day? I think
I'm locking in Michael Clark for driver of the day.
I'm gonna give it to Daniel Battlefield. It's hard. It's always a bit of a Max Verstappen thing, but it wasn't quite that this time. He wasn't just straight up ahead of the field and never looked back. It was a really, really good drive and barely put a foot wrong. Not that we saw. So, driver of the day, Daniel Battlefield. Well done, mate. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in for Split Yellow. We'll be back in about 5 minutes or at about 9 o'clock or whatever that time is for you. You will be seeing more of me, and I'll be joined by Aiden Squires in the booth. So stick around if you like, but thank you for watching if you're not. Good evening, ladies and germs. Welcome back to our action tonight at Octane Online Racing. This race is presented to you by Simrigs Sprint Rigs. This is our Sprint Series, and we're at Laguna, Seca. Welcome back if you were here for Split Yellow, and welcome if you weren't. I hope you've gotten yourself a nice warm drink in the time between our splits. I know my hands are cold, it's a little bit chilly. But Aiden, how are you doing? How is it over in WA, mate? Is it warmer?
Yeah, probably marginally. It seems to always be warmer here, but the temperature is starting to go down, thankfully. My hands are getting a bit cold, but I'm doing all good for tonight. Ready to see the night of racing. The first race was pretty good, fairly action-packed as well, so that's always nice to see.
Yeah, it was quite the entertainer that one was, I will say. There's quite a few good battles happening there, a few incidents, which is one of those things that sucks for the races, but it's kind of good for us. It's just something to talk about. A little bit of controversy, if you will, but that's said and done, and we're moving on to green. A little bit of a smaller field here. Glenn Germain, our wonderful camera person slash admin slash godfather of Octane. Godfather of Octane, probably not. That's Mel. But anyway, making the brave prediction that Mateen would be the winner of the AM class tonight. But we've just seen Fadilla has joined as another AM to contend this contest. So he might owe me $5. Oh, he's trying to split. He's trying to literally hedge his bets now. I can't believe this guy. He's just so untrustworthy. But anyway, we watch Admiral Name in the 333 McLaren. Admiral Name been an absolute force thus far this season, almost untouchable. I do believe he's had one loss. Aiden, please correct me if I'm wrong. But right now, the gauntlet is thrown. It's a 128.2, pretty much 0.3 if you like rounding. I like rounding. And right now, David Barker is the first one to step up to the plate with a 29.3. Gia Coman actually takes the crown straight from Admiral Name. It's a 128.1. If anything to go by, I think there's a fair bit of pace still to go. The cars will be moving this water off the track. It should get a little bit faster. So stick around. What do you think, Aiden? Who's your pick tonight for qualifying?
I'm going to still put my money on Name. He's been very strong through the season so far, as you've said. I think, there was one track where he didn't quite get the win. I think it was 1 or 2 rounds ago. But yeah, I mean, obviously still very strong driver, although the Ferrari does look pretty good in the wet here. So we'll have to see if Giacomin can keep this margin. I will probably place my bets on it being very close between the top 2 at this rate, and hopefully we can get just a few more cars on the grid before the race starts. Obviously, last race we started with 26 cars, so going back down to 17 is a small downgrade from that. But anyway, I hope the race is still good anyway. It doesn't matter how many cars you have at the end of the day, as long as the racing's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not a huge track, so hopefully it doesn't affect it too much. But yes, I do recall, I don't remember the track, but I remember off the race start, I think it was Giacomin caught Name sleeping and just was able to get in front and then never relinquished that lead. So we'll see what happens. So it can be done. The giant can be felled, if you will. Benny Vintner just jumping on board with the Sofa King. I made that worse. I meant to make that better. I made that worse. The Sofa King Slow BMW, the split pink and white car, currently in P3, but ooh, that's quite deep. I don't think that's going to do it. He's getting a bit off the exit there, but it's not quite the line you want. David Barker, however, 5 tenths up. That's going to be potentially good enough for P2. He's going to have to find a little bit more if he wants P1. And he's finding that. He's getting about 2 tenths up through the corkscrew. So well done. He's got about 3 more corners to navigate, but these ones are relatively tricky. Sending it down 10, you want to get on the power nice and early, but you don't want to run too wide and collect some of that sand, which he has. It's scrubbed off a couple of tenths, but people aren't paying too much for that. And it's coming up and it's going down, and it looks like it's going to be about 7 tenths, which at this point in time, someone name has gone a lot quicker. So it is good enough for P2. It would have been good enough for P1 as we started this conversation, as we started riding on board with Barker, but Admiral Name has put his stamp on this qualifying as we have about 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think Name really putting the hammer down now, starting to get in the groove of this track as it starts to dry out a little bit, as we see just gaining a tenth through turn 5, coming up the hill into Rahal Straight. As he strays it, how much curb does he use? Not too much. Okay, so we've seen some different lines coming up through here, whether you take that exit curb or not, because obviously in the wet it is very slippery. But Name's staying off the curbs right now, as you see through the corkscrew as well, stays off that inside curb. So clearly he's trying to keep his tyres on the tarmac as much as possible in order to stop any unwanted oversteer. As he comes through the second last corner, gets the power down nice and early, keeps it fairly straight, that's always good. Still 1.5 tenths up. Let's see if he can gain anything through the final corner. Yep. Alright, so it's 2.5 tenths for Name on top of what he already has. So Giacomo's in the pits. I would guess that he's going to come back out for another shot at it, because we still have 4 minutes left, so that would give him quite a few laps. As yeah, he's just come out of the pits now for another shot at beating Admiral Name's time, which, as we mentioned before, is probably going to be a bit easier said than done, as that is, I believe that's George Sicanius coming around on his inside there. Make sure he gets out the way. Very nicely done there. So yeah, Name currently keeping the provisional pole position, but we'll have to see whether he can hold on and whether P2 and 3 will be able to mount a charge at his current P1.
Yeah, it's a pretty massive time from Emerald Name, to be honest. I think he did lose a little bit through the corkscrew, and I don't think this lap is going to be it. I think he's potentially playing it a little bit safe, but I mean, it's worked out very nicely so far. The point I'm making is that there's time to be found within the corkscrew. But as we were on board with Damiano, we're now on with Hislop in the number 18 GTR, the Fruit Bowl livery GTR, one of our few cars that's still got a livery on. If you weren't here earlier, we're having a little bit of an issue with the livery bot, so we've got a few plain looking cars tonight. So you're gonna have to keep your eyes peeled on the numbers on the top and sides of the car. But Michael Crick, as he's known to his mother, believes that Hislop could be in for a shout here, a bit of a dark horse for maybe pole position. He said could surprise, so I don't want to put too many words in his mouth here, but Hislop right now is currently equal. It's P7, which is, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a 16 car grid, 17 car grid. So I think Hislop might be looking to do a little bit better. It's currently P2 in class. Mateen, though, actually doing quite well, P8 for an AM class. It's got Michael Clark written all over it. But Veni Vintner looking pretty good. It's going to be about 3 tenths, which is going to put him up to about P4 right now, just ahead of Damiano Thurcolini as he marches towards the start-finish line, and he does slot himself nicely between Barker and Thurcolini.
Yeah, so we got the top 5 all nicely white plates there, all pro drivers currently on the top 5, but Sicanius, as Oliver just jumps into P7 there as well, so then once we get past those top 5, we drop into 6, 7, 8, who are all silver class drivers as well. So that is for their obviously respective positions. So currently Sicanius is first in class, 2 tenths ahead of Ben Oliver, and Ben Oliver is only, I think that's 400ths in front of John Hislop, so very close. But John Hislop just going into the pits just then, so I don't think he's going to have enough time for another run. But certainly Sicanius and Oliver will be able to have one more shot at the lap if they're not already on it.
So Giacomin just passes the start-finish line. This is going to be the last lap for Giacomin, so he's going to have to put it all together now. Everything he's learned from this session, everything about the track and how it's feeling, he's going to have to assemble it now if he wants to topple Admiral Name. That lap that he just did was about exactly the same as his previous, a 127.58 to a 127.57. So I'm not sure if we're reaching the upper limits of what Giacomin is quite capable of, or if he does have a little bit left in his bag. When you see he's just slightly up on the delta, but he did dip some tires into that sand. And you know what they say about sand, Aiden?
Something about hating it and it getting everywhere.
Yeah, it's rough, it's coarse, it's irritating, and it gets everywhere. Luca Giacomin probably feeling that right now. God, this
It's more like mud in these conditions.
Yeah.
It's less sand and probably more mud at this point.
I think Tim was saying that Laguna is known for the rain. Is that true? Because like it looks so dry when it's obviously not wet, and it's all sandy. I just like couldn't really picture it.
I'm not sure, but what I am sure of is Luca Giacomin is really close to Admiral Name's time, just loses a little bit out of that second last corner. If he can get a good drive here, he might be able to challenge. I don't think it's going to be possible as he just drops down to 1.5 tenths coming out of the final corner. So he's going to be close, but just can't get it over the line. Good effort by Luca Giacomin though, as we said. And Damiano Thurcolini just bumping down Barker one position. We'll see where Barker finishes his quali. Oh, he's 2 tenths down. He'll have to put something together here in this final sector. Almost going to 3 tenths down as he comes up the Rahal straight into the corkscrew. Making sure he keeps his line nice and tidy, straight lines it down the corkscrew. He's gained a 10th there, which is well done to him. Into Rainy corner here, keeps it nice and tight. Drifts out a little bit wide and the gap stabilizes at about 2 tenths. So he will need to gain at least 1.5 tenths here to equalize his time and not even jump up to Thurcolini. So I don't think it's going to be possible for Barker. Looks like he'll be finishing in P4 for this session, as he is, I think, the last one to come across the line. Yes, he is. He's the last one of this session to come across the line. So currently the standings are Name on pole, Giacomin second, Thurcolini third, Barker fourth, and fifth is Ben Vintner.
It's a pretty nice class spread there. They've almost shuffled themselves neatly, but Mateen outperforming that class for sure, and Bishop a little bit underperforming. Glad in my ear cheering on Mateen because he has $5 on this. Vanilla, I need you to do better than that, mate. I've got $5. I'm like, that's almost a cup of coffee in Sydney.
That's a cup of coffee in Perth, so I think that'll be fine.
Yeah, no bloody know it is. The hash brown economy in Perth is so much better than Sydney. Don't even get me started. Oh, so
yeah, well done by Mateen, obviously. He's,
Mateen
above his weight a little bit there.
Mateen definitely. There's a Pro-Am badge with their name on it for sure. I'm pretty sure every time I've called green, they've been doing well above AM rating. So now everyone, I hope the race director is reminding them to put on their wet tires for this wet race. It would be a shame to start a wet race on dry tires.
Yeah, it would be a real shame. You'd have to be an idiot to do that. I mean,
yeah, you're just an absolute blundering fool, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. Moving on. So we've got Sakanias in silver, P1. Well done by him, with the AM of Mateen right behind him. So we'll see if Mateen can, obviously being an AM driver, there is a bit to learn in terms of racing in a pack. So, you don't want to go into aggressive, and you just kind of want to roll with the punches and make sure you keep your nose nice and clean. And especially when he's in a position where he is in the top 10, he doesn't need to do anything crazy in this race to maintain the class win. So yeah, hopefully he can keep his car dent free throughout this race and finish on that class victory step. And we've got Miller in P10, number 21 in the Porsche for the Pro-Am lead. The Porsche obviously very strong here, as we've seen earlier, as well as the McLaren. So he's got John Rad right behind him, who's a pretty capable driver. I've raced both of them, I believe, in my time in the Sprint Series. So hopefully they can, keep it nice and clean and produce some good racing for us.
Yeah, these guys, it's a pretty competitive field here. I know I jumped into the green last week, and thank God there was no stream because all I did was kill someone. It was the worst incident I've ever had, and then quit, which is cool. But 17 car grid, yeah, Mateen, I think it's been interesting. I think Mateen is relatively new to Octane, from my understanding. Mateen, come yell at me if that's not true. So I'm not exactly sure of their actual experience level in terms of racing and wet racing. But I do think, like, I personally hope that they're not looking at the class win, because there's only one other car, and it looks like the pace is just not comparable. I hope they're looking at least the Pro-Am win kind of thing, because they're good enough. We'll just see, as you said, if they can keep it consistent, keep it on the track, and keep out of any incidents, because unfortunately, as we saw last race, it's not always your incident that does you in. It can be someone else's, and and they might not even potentially, like, it could just be totally accidental. So hopefully Mateen can keep it nice and clean. I am touching all the wood in the world I can right now. And yeah, as we are underway for our formation lap, single file, 120 Ks, please, Admiral name. You can see this is the spray that they're pretty much going to be contending with. It will be probably slightly not as bad because the cars are quite bunched up. The rain lights are blinking. Do you think name
Unless they
gonna...
use bonnet cam like a degenerate, but yeah.
I just... This is like, Tim brought up the bot briefly. I was going to scold him for it, but he kept talking and we moved on. But it's, to me, hot take, it's sim racing. If you're on the bonnet, you're not simulating anymore, are you? You're on the bonnet.
I don't think that's a hot take from my experience. I think that's a pretty common take.
No, I know there's some pretty adamant people about the whole spray situation and this and that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot more difficult when you're in the cockpit cam, as we'll probably see throughout this race. I can't speak for whether these drivers are using the cockpit cam or the bonnet cam, but I can be sure that the conditions are fairly treacherous. They're certainly not the easiest. As I've just noticed, Fadilla is right back at the corkscrew, so I'm wondering if he had trouble getting going or had a spin on the formation lap, but he's miles back, so he's going to be out of position for this start as we round the final corner. Admiral Name leading us up to the start line with Luca Giacomin right next to him.
It looks like there's a big gap, sort of 3/4 down the field, and it's not Fadilla's spot as well. So we'll see if there's anything to come by that. And Giacomin also looked mildly out of position there, ahead of Admiral Name, but they are still side by side. Sorry, you take this away, Hayden.
No, that's okay. As we sweep through turn 2, it is with Admiral Name on the inside, Luca Giacomin trying to hang around the outside, which he does. There is going to be a slight overlap going into turn 3 as they all keep it clean. Damiano just poking his nose in the back there as well, trying to just maybe put Giacomin off as they head into turn 4 now. All keeping it fairly clean. I don't see any yellow flags, which is always a good sign as they successfully complete the first half of the lap without any incidents, as Barker and Thurcolini are right behind Admiral Name, as there is a bit of a battle going on behind with George Sakanias and Ben Vintner. Is that the Aston Martin of Ben Oliver? Yes, it is, slotting in behind them. So pretty close as they come up to the corkscrew. We'll see if Ben Vintner can have a look for a little move here. It's very difficult to do at the corkscrew, but he elects to just keep it safe and hold his position. As this train of cars jumps over the corkscrew, basically hitting that entry curve pretty hard as they come through Rainy Curve now towards the end of the lap. So all pretty safe. I think car 24 is fairly far back, but I don't know if that's incident related. It probably isn't. As Admiral Name now looks to close that gap onto Luca Giacomin. Obviously he's lost the position on the start, so he'll want to make that back as fast as he can and keep putting pressure on Luca.
So these two have already opened up a second back to Damiano, poor Damiano in the 844 Porsche. Yeah, interestingly, Giacomin got the jump there on Name, just forced the move. It's nicely done. Name is now on the back foot. Name also was put a few wheels into the sand just through this corner on the last lap, and had to sort of manage it as to not. When he re-entered the track across that curve, it really unsettles the car. So I think he was just riding that out as to avoid that. But as far as Fadilla goes, my money is as good as gone, by the way, but I think they had caught back up to the pack, and then I wonder if they have had some kind of an incident, because they're now way back there again. But we'll have to manage that one, as these two, I mean, this is going to be the story for a lot of the race, but for now we look a little bit back further through the pack. Barker 1 second behind Thurcolini. Sicanius just defending off the advances of Ben Vintner in the Sofa King Slow BMW. It's 3/10 right now, and I think it's going to stick like that. Oliver looking pretty good right now in that Aston Martin. It's a good bit of kit to have in the rain. It's probably one of the cars of choice out here right now. About 7/10 off the back of Vintner, with Mateen just 3.5 tenths back from that. So Mateen's dropped down position, if I'm not wrong. Am I wrong, or am I right?
I couldn't tell you, but what I can tell you is that I reckon these battle groups are going to stick together for a bit. So this Oliver, Sicanius and Vintner group seems to be roughly on pace with each other, as well as obviously Giacomin and Name are probably going to be fighting for the majority of this race. Obviously two very quick drivers leading the race currently, but Ben Oliver, who is, I think, fairly new to the Sprint Series as well, shows what he's made of, and is in P7 in that Aston, like you said. Quite a good car in the wet. Definitely better than maybe some of the other cars out there right now, but we'll see if he can use that to pull onto the back of Ben Vintner and George Sicanius and just put the pressure on. Wait for a mistake. It's quite common, mistakes on this track, especially in this weather, because all the curbs are incredibly slippery and it's very easy to have a moment. So all he has to do probably is just sit behind, wait for his moment, and get the pass done nice and cleanly.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Oliver, I think it was at Kailami earlier this season, we had another wet race, and they had a bit of trouble. I don't think they'd done a lot of wet racing, and they had a few moments, and they were sort of asking around for some advice after the race, which, I mean, Octane is a fantastic resource to be doing that. There are so many extremely experienced drivers out there that they're chomping at the bit to share their knowledge with you. So we'll see if Oliver can put some of that expertise to use and keep it on track, keep all four wheels pointing in the right direction. But right now they've still got Mateen hanging on the back of them. So we shall see how this progresses, and yeah, they are kind of settling into their packs for the minute as we come through the midfield section of Laguna Seca.
Yeah, as we see John Hislop now starting to pull onto the back of this group in that Fruit Bowl GTR. There he is in the back of the picture right there. So obviously the GTR is a bit of a beast in these sort of conditions. It's probably not the easiest car to drive. It does have a lot of power, especially acceleration. So it is pretty good to have in that short burst sort of straights like we do have here, but obviously that comes with the trade, and that it is a lot more difficult to drive than, say, the car that's in front of him, the Porsche. So he'll have to definitely get it nice and under control before he starts making any moves here.
Yeah, we just saw John Rad actually having a bit of a moment, so that's put him back down. Looks like it's going to be in 17th. Oh, no, he's holding on ahead of Beaton, so Beaton's probably had their own moment as Emerald Name sets the fastest lap for now. But yeah, that GTR, as you're saying, it's a very good car. It's a tricky car though, and I do think that Porsche is probably a little bit easier to navigate, particularly in these conditions. And the Porsche, excellent drive out of the corners, and particularly in the wet. So Hislop is going to have his work cut out for him. So we see Mateen just just opting to take a bit of a shallower line through there. It looked like they were extremely close, but it does mean that Oliver gets a better drive out of that corner and that gap stabilizes.
I've also just noticed that Emerald Name has taken the lead. I don't believe that was the case when we last looked.
Absolutely not.
Giacomin in the front, so he's gone past. It would be nice to see where he did that, because obviously Luca Giacomin is not going to make it easy for him. So he's obviously
No.
done well to get past him.
Yeah, and it's 8/10 nearly. So it's either been a bit of a pretty significant moment for Giacomin, or Admiral Name has absolutely turned on the afterburners, or a bit of both, really. But yeah, so Name just taking control of this race, less than 10 minutes in. Pretty surprising. Laguna Seca, not the easiest track to make overtakes happen. We did see a few through Split Yellow, but now we are going to have a look at what transpired. So we're coming down to T1. Admiral Name having a look at the inside, just sends it back to the outside. Giacomin going quite deep, and Name just with the traction just slots right in front of Giacomin. So Giacomin just a little bit of a mistake there, and Name just absolutely able to capitalize on that. And that's tough, because that's going to be extremely, extremely hard to get that back from Admiral Name.
Yeah, Name just doing a really nice undercut, getting underneath Giacomin at turn 2 and just kind of parking the car right in front of him, so he's not able to use that good exit he gets from going for the late apex out of turn 2. But Damiano's still on the back of these guys, so we'll see. I would guess Name is probably going to start extending this gap. It's 1.2 seconds already. It's going up fairly quickly. Last lap it was 0.7, so maybe Thurcolini will be able to get on the back of Giacomin if he's not having a too good a time in the wheel behind that Ferrari. In the Ferrari. So yeah, we'll have to see. And also Barker is right behind Thurcolini as well, so hopefully these guys get a little battle going for our viewing pleasure.
Yeah, love some content. These guys still keeping it pretty close, but looking down the board, it has stabilized a bit. There's about 1.5 seconds for a few different guys between them. Ben Vintner still very close to Sacanius. John Brad in the number 23 McLaren just copying a 10-second penalty for a collision on lap 1. I don't believe that we saw that. Might get a little bit of a replay. I don't know if it's in the budget. But yeah, right now, I really like the color of this McLaren, to be honest. It's grown on me, because obviously I think that's a default livery, but the color is just really nice.
Oh, it's definitely recognizable. Whenever I see that car, I know it's George Sacanius driving it. So, yeah, whenever you see the turquoise 277 McLaren, you know who's driving it. So, it's a good job to have a very recognizable livery, even if it's just a solid color. But Ben Vinton is starting to get really close behind him, coming up to the corkscrew, just starting to pile on the pressure as he goes off, takes that narrow line into the corner, just doesn't quite nail it. And as soon as you get off that camber on the inside of that corner, it's very hard to keep it on the track, as obviously, as we've just seen. That's going to leave him vulnerable now to Ben Oliver right behind him in that Aston Martin. So Ben Vintner needs to just get his head down, not make any more mistakes, just keep it nice and consistent, and hopefully pull out a gap again. Otherwise, he's going to be in some trouble.
Yeah, I think he should add the pace to get away from Oliver, provided there's no more mistakes. But yeah, he's just lost out massively there. If the timing board will update as they come across the line, but it looks like it's more than 2.5 seconds, really.
It's very easy to do into that corner, especially when you're close behind someone in the spray. I noticed he did pull out a little bit to try show the nose, and maybe that just caught him off guard as he turned in and didn't quite get in the camber of that corner. So obviously very easy to do. That corner is very difficult in the dry. The wet obviously just compounds that, so probably the most difficult corner on the track. It's basically a blind, fast left-hander with a gigantic sausage curb on the inside that you do not want to hit under any circumstance. So, yeah, probably the most technical part of this track, that corner.
Yeah, I feel like that corner feels the most different between the dry and the wet on this track, potentially. Because you're doing, I'd say, quite a bit more braking, but I'm not nearly as good as these guys, so maybe that's not entirely true. But I found when I tried to take it similar-ish to what I would do in the dry, you just end off way off in the sand. So I might have just caught him out. We're about 10 minutes in. It's about 5-6 laps in. But yeah, as you said as well, you show the nose, you're slightly off the regular line. You're just not really sure how you're actually navigating it, and you end up navigating the sand.
Yeah, navigating the mud in this case. So we'll see if Ben can get back onto the back of George Secanius. Secanius uses that opportunity to start driving away. I bet he probably saw that in his mirror and breathed a sigh of relief that he's got a few laps to just breathe and get back in a rhythm so that he's not put off anymore.
I mean, I hate to say it, it is a second down already. It was 3.2, it's now 2.1. Daryl Lim in the background are just having their own moment. Nothing too serious as they've gotten going again, but it is a game of attrition here in the wet, and particularly with only 17 cars. If you're going to keep having incidents, you're going to find yourself falling further and further down the totem pole.
Yeah, and obviously the gigantic sand traps on the exit of every corner don't do you any more favors. It's not like Paul Ricard where it's got miles of runoff. When you go off here, you're probably in the sand, which makes life a lot more painful. So we go onto Abdul Madeen here, who is being chased by the Porsche J Miller, and behind him the Nissan of John Hislop. Obviously Madeen still holding his own very well as the only AM driver in the top 10. As Fadilla has had some problems over the last few laps, although he has gained a few positions, so hopefully he can keep that going. But as we watch Mateen on the back of Ben Oliver, going to try probably get close enough for an overtake, although a lot easier said than done, particularly on a track like this, especially against a car like the Aston, which has very good drive out of corners in the wet, as we've mentioned before. But the McLaren does have its own perks. Obviously, it's a pretty strong car. We see Amaral name leading the race, and Glory Babu was doing very well in split yellow until he had his off at the corkscrew.
I can't believe that was almost like a high school insult name, Amaral Lame. Really?
No.
Obviously an accident, but I was just like, oh my. But yeah, the team looking pretty good. It's ebbing and flowing a little bit, this gap between themselves and Oliver, but I think the pace is there, but right now they're keeping it quite consistent as we are 15 minutes into the race, quarter of the way through. So hopefully they can just keep that up, because I mean P8 is fantastic regardless.
Yeah, very well done by an AM driver. I suspect he will be in line for a promotion if he keeps this up to Pro-Am. So he's getting right on the back of Ben Oliver into some of these braking zones as Miller goes wide over the corkscrew behind him. Might make him vulnerable to John Hislop in the background in that GTR, in the Fruit Bowl GTR. And yes, Hislop has made his way past Jay Miller in the Porsche. So well done to Hislop for seizing that opportunity and getting the pass done nice and clean. Let's see if he can get after this McLaren in front of him.
Yeah, it can be a bit tricky when someone has a bit of a moment through corkscrew, because they're kind of just going to launch themselves straight back onto the track, and they're not necessarily always invalid and necessarily needing to. Well, I mean, I'd like everyone to rejoin safely every time, but you know what? If you've technically not left the track, you don't owe anyone a safe rejoin, air quotes. So glad no one came a cropper there.
Oh, look, it's tricky. Any corner that narrows like that and is kind of a braking zone we can't really see, it's always going to produce a bit of uncertainty, but you've just got to use your wit and, think about what you're doing. As we see a replay here of John Rad. Is he going to tap the back of Jeff Beaton in front of him? Or he just chops his nose off as he gets the pass done? That's a little bit naughty. I'm not sure if that's what he's received the penalty for. It may be. But yeah.
Oh, come on. That's it. I mean, the pass wasn't fully done, and then they came together. So I would dare say that that's it. Although I think I'm like 1 for 2 on my calls tonight. So in terms of penalties,
I think that's a pretty safe one, to be honest. But yeah. So you go back and board with Abdul Mateen. You can see the GTR of Hislop is not quite closing the distance, so obviously there's a little bit of a pace gap between these two groups. as I've also just noticed on the timing board, Ben Vintner has closed back up fairly close to the back of George Sakanias, as well as these guys obviously almost bumper to bumper going through turn 2. There's 2 groups to watch right now, so hopefully they can produce some entertainment for us.
Ryan Anderson in chat, one of our resident stewards, just confirming that was the incident that got John Rad that invoice.
Yeah, that's fair enough from the steward's perspective, as just dips the rear right wheel onto the sand. Very risky doing that, obviously, as there's not much grip out there. It's very easy to have a loop, as we've seen in the earlier race as well, as Hislop now started to claw back that gap, possibly as a result of Oliver just holding up the McLaren of Mateen here.
Yeah, I mean, dipping it wheels in the mud or the sand or whatever we're calling it. We need to get out our silt/loam/dirt chart just to make sure we know what we're talking about. But yeah, that's not going to do you any favors with the car swallowing. John Hislop is absolutely no slouch. She will eat up that time if you keep making those mistakes. But speaking of, Errol Names put 2 seconds to Giacomin. Even though Giacomin currently holds the fastest lap, if you can't keep doing it consistently, you're not going to catch. And I mean, his best is look at that consistency. The best of the 27.42, and the last was like a 27.45 or something. So Errol Name just currently in the driver's seat, driving his own race. Thurcolini is just not quite there. About 6 seconds off the back of Giacomin, and Barker 2 seconds off Thurcolini. So Thurcolini pretty comfortably in P3. However, 2 seconds was enough last race for Benefield to capitalize on a big mistake that Babby had. So we're not cashing those checks just yet, Aiden.
Yeah, I mean, for my bet, I hope that Name stays in the lead, as we've got a car off.
Is that
49? That's Jeff Beaton. Might be blue flagged, I would assume. Probably just getting out of the way, maybe in a little bit of an unorthodox manner. But yeah, as he jumps into the pits here, get that pit run. Oh, a little.
Can we see the corkscrew, please? Someone's gone yellow. 43 was yellowed. Maybe not 43. Someone was.
Yeah, if it was, it's Dylan Gamble, but I did not catch that.
Because they were very close together all of a sudden. Yeah, Mateen has had an incident. They're down in P13 now, so just losing out massively. They were in, I believe, P8 just before that, so we might get a replay of that, but they've obviously had a pretty big moment to have lost out that much time.
Yeah, unfortunate for Mateen, obviously running pretty well in the standings, is now he's got his fellow AM compatriot right behind him in Fadilla, so we might have an AM battle. If Mateen has picked up damage or something from that incident, he might be a little bit slower, or if he's just a little bit put off by that accident and out of his rhythm, so we'll have to go back and check the replay to see what's happened.
We also now really fantastically have 3 McLarens with exactly the same livery, one after another.
Yeah, that's always going to make it really easy for us.
Also, my $5 might be back in my pocket, baby. I could have my coffee. Could have my coffee for tomorrow paid off.
Your half a coffee, you mean?
Yeah. I don't know. At some places you can get it for $5, but I like to get a big coffee because I'm a bit of a caffeine fiend, to be honest. Beaton has just been given a stop go 30. What's that about?
That is for speeding in the pits. I reckon when he entered the pits, I saw it, he dipped his rear right onto the sand and had a bit of a slide, and I reckon that's triggered his ABS and he hasn't pulled up in time. The stop go 30 is for speeding in the pit lane.
It must have been speeding quite a bit, because it is relative, isn't it, to your speed when you enter the pits?
Yeah, I think so. So very easy to do. I'm sure we've all sped in the pits before, especially in the wet, and when you dip a tyre onto the sand, the car does not like slowing down at all. So yeah, I reckon that's what's happened to him, unfortunately.
He's actually yellowed just up ahead. Oliver just dipping a wheel in the sand there. Hislop has salivating right now, but we do have a bit of a replay. So this is Mateen. Oh, just
drops it on the entry. I think might have just nicked that sand on the turn-in point, or has just had a moment, just unsettled the car on the entry. But well done to Mateen for rejoining safely. Obviously, very high speed blind corner, so you don't want to rejoin in the wrong spot because you will get collected. But yeah, unlucky for him. He was doing really well, but it looks like it was his own fault. So unfortunately, he's going to have to learn from that mistake and move on with the race.
Yeah, lovely rejoin etiquette there. I hope everyone's taking notes once again.
From an AM driver too.
Yeah.
My applause to him.
I mean, this guy is not AM. This guy has at least Pro-Am written all over him. But, I mean, I said before we were talking about Michael Clark in the last race. It is also consistency. But I do think even beyond that for Mateen, it's Pro-Am, you know? But right now, Ben Oliver is going to have to fend off the advances of Hislop in the number 18 GTR, as Hislop is starting to put it together, getting pretty racy.
Yeah, I've also noticed in the meantime, Vintner has got past Sicanius and has put a 3-second gap on him. I don't know if we caught that one as well. I think that one's just snuck by us too. So
Yeah.
obviously Sicanius is starting to have some issues. As we said before, Vintner was closing and putting the pressure on him. So yeah, it seems that Vintner's gotten past, hopefully cleanly, but I guess we'll have to watch the replay to have a look.
Yeah, I think Vintner just has had the pace on Sicanius. It's just been a case of actually getting past, because he closed that gap like within a few laps. And you can see now it's already a second and a half, so probably just a matter of time, really, as Admiral Name setting a fastest lap of 27.38. So Giacomin just doesn't quite have everything in the bag to pull out enough fast laps to do anything about Admiral Name. So we'll see. There's still a pit stop to be had. But on track right now, it looks like Admiral Name is in control.
Yeah, I think Name will have to make a fairly decent mistake if he's going to lose this one. In that said, obviously we've seen a stop-go 30 for speeding in the pits, and there's been penalties for speeding in the pits for leaders in the past before, so all hope is not lost. But knowing Name, he's a very consistent and very smart driver, so I would bet that he is not going to get a speeding in the pit lane. Definitely touching wood there, but trying my best to get off my first commentator's curse. Yeah, as we see Ben Oliver going a little bit wide as we get the replay here. So this is Vintner on Sicanius. What corner is this? This is going up the hill towards the corkscrew, towards Rahal Straight. Is Sicanius just gonna dip the wheel in the sand, and once you hit that big green exit curb as well, it can really bog the car down as the traction control freaks out, because all of a sudden you're driving over some slippery surface and it just completely bogs you down. So yeah, bad run onto the Rahal Straight for Sicanius, which lets Vintner get through.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the mistake that will cost you. Vintner just absolutely capitalizing on that one. As we see Hislop now really up the pace. Ben Oliver's now going to have to probably get a little bit defensive here. So we're coming down to technically T2. Lovely on board. Hislop taking a very wide line. Oliver looking on the defensive right now, and it looks like for now it has paid off. They maintain as they are, but I do not think this is the last episode of this saga.
Yeah, these guys have been pretty close together for the last few laps now. As we've said, obviously Laguna, fairly difficult track to overtake. I mean, if this was any other track, the GTR could probably get past down the straight, but Laguna straight is not really a straight. It's kind of like a mini straight with a little turn on it. Most GT3s don't even reach their top gear, so Hislop is going to have to wait for a mistake and really put the pressure on here.
He's just fallen back ever so slightly, but it might just be a bit of a case of strengths and weaknesses of the car. But that was a little bit squirrely coming into the braking of the corkscrew. A little bit of left and right action.
Yeah, Blake, as you being a GTR driver, I think you would know the best. But as far as I know, this car doesn't really like braking and turning, especially probably compounded by the wet. Is that your experience too?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's... If you brake and turn, I mean, braking and turning in most cars is a bit average, especially if you've got it set up really aggressively, but the end loves to step out if you're doing any kind of turning. So honestly, I can't imagine the GTR is super duper fun to drive here. I mean, unless you really like a challenge. But there's a few...
Unless your name is Lucas Keys or Adrian Rondinella.
Yeah, like this corner, like I would imagine it's probably a little bit tricky because it's like you kind of, you obviously you straighten it out the best that you can, but it's like you kind of try to brake as late as you can, obviously, and then turning it can be quite tricky. But I'm bad, so it's a bit different.
Yeah, as you can see, Hislop gets right on the back of the Aston, and then just slowly that gap ekes out over the midsection of the lap. Obviously very difficult to follow someone close by through those turns, sort of 4 or 5. As we see, Hislop's just dropped back. It was 2/10 going into the previous corner, and now it's back down to 5, but he'll probably gain that time back over the course of the first sector like he has done. So hopefully he can get a move done.
That was it was really interesting riding on board there down the corkscrew. It was so bumpy.
Yeah, some cars really don't like the curves of the corkscrew. As we see Hislop just so much more aggressive in that final corner, able to brake late and get it turned in very nice and shorten the gap a little bit as they come onto the main straight into turn 2, the large braking zone. Oliver having some struggles into turn 3, 4, so Hislop generally is able to bring that gap down a little bit through this sector, but it's very hard to maintain that gap as you get to the back part coming up to the corkscrew.
Just note that Bishop is our, well, I guess technically our second car to pit. So we're seeing that it is about halfway through. The time flies when you're having fun.
Oh my gosh, as we've got the copycat McLarens all just lined up for us.
Am I feeling okay? I'm seeing triple.
Yeah.
Oh my god, wait, Fadilla has gotten in front of Mateen. Glenn owe me $5.
Yeah, there's a long way. Oh, and he's just got to stop go 10 for a collision, so I think that's Blake's money absolutely down the drain there. See you later to your coffee.
I'm actually distraught. I'm in shambles. I'm crashing out. Fadilla, we're gonna have to have a word after this.
Oh my gosh, he goes very deep into the corkscrew. There's contact. Luckily, they all keep it fairly straight. Oh my gosh, this is very strange watching this. All 3 identical McLarens just going at it with each other. I don't know who caused that contact. Oh my gosh, there's another one exit stage left through the exit of Rainy Curve. That's 213. That's Jay Tanner. So one of the 3 copycat McLarens is down. We're down to 2 now in the battle. The 2 AM drivers, that is. So I'll have to see if they hold position or if there's more shenanigans that are ongoing, as Fadilla obviously has to serve that stop and go 10, which I would be pretty intrigued to see what that is for, because the stewards do not give out a stop and go 10 for nothing. As he flashes his lights coming through the turn 3. But yeah, we'll have to see what happened with that penalty and the corkscrew incident that we just saw.
After all of that just transpired, our own name is pitted in the time that all of that happened, and Giacomin coming into the pits now. I'm absolutely distraught still. I can't believe that, but I think Fadilla might have another invoice coming, because I think it was Fadilla, but there's 3 McLarens that look exactly the same. They absolutely just sent it into the entrance of the corkscrew, and I believe it was Mateen that got sent wide there, but Oh yeah. I
some
think
decent damage on these cars now as well.
Yeah,
See,
I
there's
think
quite a few scrapes down the side.
they're trading paint, but it's all the same paint, so it doesn't even matter. I said I was going to talk to Fadilla afterwards, and I might have to. It might be a slightly different conversation now, I think. As you just see the 213 car, that's Tanner again, just having a bit of an incident through the corkscrew there.
Yeah, seeing quite a few cars pitting now as we reach the halfway point of the race. The fuel time is fixed at 25 seconds, I believe. So these drivers are unlikely to take tyres because in the wet, the tyre wear is fairly minimal. It's only once you start getting past an hour and a half that the tyres start dying. So these guys will probably keep the same tyres on, obviously do that mandatory fuel, and then come out again. As we see, obviously Name is fairly comfortably in the lead at the moment. A 7-second roughly gap to Luca Giacomin in second place. Thurcolini is yet to pit. He is in the Porsche, so he can go long. As we get a replay here, we're on board with Fadilla going into the corkscrew. We've paused the replay. Yeah, so it was Fadilla, unlucky Blake, that caused that incident. I would like to see, so Tanner gets past here, and then something else happens on the exit. I think Tanner has a moment on that exit curve, very easy to do, extremely slippery, and then loses that position again. I would like to see what happened to Mateen originally, though, because the Fadilla stop-go pen that he's got, because that's fairly significant.
Yeah, it's a pretty big penalty. So I would definitely like to see that one.
As Oliver's got a stop go 30 now as well. So Oliver's got a stop go 30, which means that's another invoice for someone speeding in the pit lane. I don't think that was a steward administered penalty. So clearly the pit lane entry catching a few people out here in the wet.
Yeah, split green not doing their practice. You got to practice your pit stop. You can, especially if you're in the lower to midfield. I feel like if you can nail your pit stop, you can make up a fair bit of time and potentially. Also just avoiding getting a penalty is a big thing, because Oliver obviously was pretty quick in this race and now they're out of it. So practice your pit stops.
Yeah, according to YouTube chat, the stop go for Fadilla was for the final corner on lap 16. So that final corner is a pretty decent overtaking opportunity, but at the same time, it's fairly easy to have an accident there because it's basically a 90-degree left-hander. So it opens the door and people might take that opportunity sometimes from a bit too far back. And yeah, that might be what's happened here if I am to speculate, but we'll have to wait and see.
I've got Thurkley, Barker and Miller in the pits, and that's going to be most of everyone. As we are now seeing that replay, we've got our copycat McLarens with, I think, I'm not actually
That's Dylan Gamble in the red Ferrari.
Yep. So here we go. We are approaching the final corner. Oh, this looks a bit spicy. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, he almost got a double kill there. Well, he kind of has, as Gamble collects the McLaren that was turned on the exit of the corner. Nothing he could do there. As we've just seen, he's got another drive-through for that contact going into the corkscrew. So, yeah, I think, Blake, you might have to reconsider your monetary choices here, because your coffee is not looking very possible at the moment.
I'm a bad investor, I guess. I don't normally gamble.
Just don't invest in me next race, please.
Why not? You practiced your pit stops, didn't you?
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I don't think the pit stops are going to be the issue for me tomorrow. If I do race, I think it's going to be the keeping it on the track in the Ford is probably going to be my main issue. But yeah, my practice did reveal that it is pretty difficult to drive on this track in the Ford if you want to be quick. So yeah, it's going to be fairly interesting tomorrow. But we head on board with Jonathan Hislop behind the car of Barker. So that's interesting. How is Barker so far back? Right behind in front of Hislop after the pit stop. Something must have happened to Barker, because I believe he was behind Thurcolini at one point, was he not?
I'm pretty sure Barker was up in the mix in the top 4. He was behind Thurcolini, no? I think that's what you just said that, didn't you?
Yeah, he was behind Thurcolini, so something has happened to him in the last few laps to cause him to drop back to in front of Hislop.
Murray, it's a wet race this week for all the sprints, so Split Red will definitely be wet.
Yeah, I think it's rain guaranteed, but the strength of the rain is kind of unknown. As Miller also has a stop-go 30, did we touch on that? I'm not sure if we did.
I don't know. He's serving it now, but...
I think what we've learned is Split Green really needs to touch up on their pit entries. If this is to be, I think that is also a pit entry penalty. So you see 2 cars going side by side ahead. That is the Ferrari of David Barker and the McLaren of Jay Tanner going side by side into this section. Very difficult to do, but they managed to keep it clean. I think if Tanner's smart, he's going to try not be too much of an issue for these guys, because obviously he has not pitted yet, and it would be kind of silly to cause an incident with someone you're not actually racing with. But we'll have to wait and see.
So Mateen in the pits now. So coming through, hopefully their pit entry was okay. Hopefully they practiced that. And we'll see what happens with Tanner. I mean, there's not really... We sort of touched on this with Paul Kranich before. There's not really a lot of reason to be super duper racing, but ultimately it's not against the rules. It's up to you. It kind of depends on your opinion. As we're seeing a pit entry, so that's David Barker.
Oh, no way. He spun it on the entry. Wow. That is something I've not seen before. That is the first time I've ever seen that. As Glenn says, he does it all the time.
This is a regular Wednesday for Glenn.
Yeah, wow. Was Barker just looking for some style points on that one?
I mean, he did well to like kind of just keep on the gas and get it almost all the way back around. But a really interesting moment nonetheless. I've not really seen that in my time in the booth.
No, neither. I've never seen that in my time on ACC, spinning on the entry, on the power. But yeah, as we see, Hislop is still kind of stuck behind Tanner. As we said, you can defend the position, but whether it is smart to is another discussion entirely. As he goes wide, as he slows down for that rejoin, which is smart of him. You don't want to rush the rejoin and end up taking out the car, especially like we said, if you're not actually properly racing him, the stewards will not look upon him favorably. So yeah, Hislop is through, and now he can chase after Barker, although if Barker's pace early on in the race was what he is going to do now, I doubt Hislop will get the opportunity to actually challenge him.
Yeah, no, Barker, I think a bit of a league ahead of Hislop right now in terms of this race. But right now, Sakani is technically P1, but has not pitted yet. So Admiral Name would be your provisional leader. We'll see if anyone opts to do... I'm renaming it the Loop-de Strat, so he can be known for something else apart from spinning on a straight, I guess. And I don't really...
the Barker Strat? Because he's the only one that's done it.
What do you mean the Barker Strat? Barker hasn't even finished the race.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the pit entry spin.
No. I'm talking about pitting on the last lap to... I think there's something else that's supposed to happen, but he also effectively didn't have to do the pit exit during the race, which saves you however much time, 5 seconds or so. We'll see if anyone opts to do that. I mean, there's not been any talk of it, so we'll see if that's just something that Luti's cooked up.
Well, I think the reason there was no real fuss about Lupti's pit was because he didn't really gain anything from it. The only thing he gained was time, not any position. So I think if you are to gain a position from that sort of strategy, I think the stewards would probably be a little bit more annoyed. That's just my guess, but yeah, we'll have to see if any of these drivers do it.
I don't think so, because I guess it seems mildly obscure. We only have 2 more drivers to go. Lim in the pits currently, so that just leaves Tanner and Secanius. We'll see when these guys come in. We've got, which in the closing act of the race, if you will, Hislop's still relatively close to Barker. I don't think that's going to stay that way for super long. Other than that, everyone's really lovely and spread out for us, which is really, really, really easy to commentate on.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think with such a small track they'd be a bit closer together, but unfortunately not. We don't quite have the grid numbers as race number 1, so yeah, the spreading out is kind of inevitable, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you see Lim just coming through that pit exit. It's an interesting one because you're doing turn air quotes 2, even though it's definitely turn 1. Oh, hello? Are we on slicks? Oh no. Is that...
Yeah. We might have to have a look back at that one, because that looked very slick, suspect.
Oh, yeah. So I think that's Tanner coming in now.
Yeah, that's Tanner coming in.
That's rough. The point I was going to make is that it's a pretty interesting pit exit. It's definitely time consuming, because you are essentially doing turn 2 and then entering the track. It's probably good for safety purposes, because rejoining straight, like just before turn 2, that hairpin would probably be a little bit spicy. But it is, I guess it makes it a bit of a time consuming pit. So yeah.
I did just notice on the UI quickly that Lim was on dries. If the UI is to be believed, I know it can be a little bit glitchy and sometimes it displays the wrong tyre, but for Lim it was displaying the dry, and that would probably explain what just happened there. So unfortunate for Lim. I have definitely not done. I've definitely not put the wrong tyre on for the conditions. That has never happened to me. But yeah, unfortunately it does happen. So yeah, unlucky for Lim.
I think if you've not set your pit stop stuff up properly, it can be easy, or it can be easy to just not notice it either.
Yeah, it can also switch your strategy and that sort of thing and put you on the wrong tyres, but without seeing Lim's point of view, it's basically impossible to know. Secanius is staying out, so that must be why I assume Vintner was able to catch up to him pretty quick, because he's been out right now for 45 minutes, so he's fueled the car up for quite a long first stint, so that's probably why Vintner was able to get past him earlier on. He's just fueled to try and be do the roadblock strat, and because Laguna is fairly hard to overtake, if you just plant your car in the middle of the track and defend fairly well, it's pretty difficult for cars behind to overtake you. So he did try that. I'm not sure if we could classify it as successful, because Vintner did get past him, but he's staying out very long in this first stint. I would guess that he's going to pit fairly soon though. You don't want to stay out too long unless he's pitted for the entire 55 minutes and he's just going to do a splash and dash right at the end, which is also very possible, but we'll have to wait and see.
Ryan Anderson in chat just confirming that Lim has told them that he was on slicks, so I am once again the greatest analyst of all time. I'm also a terrible gambler, so you win some and you lose some.
Yeah, I think I should stay away from the casinos. Maybe.
No, I'm really good at poker. I learned how to play poker from Luigi on the Super Mario 6. So yeah, Super Mario 64 on the DS. That's how I learned to play poker. So.
Wow, you're that old? I didn't know that. You're a dinosaur.
I think I'm a bit older than some people realize. I have a girlish whimsy about me, but Ben Oliver now in a little bit of a battle with John Rad after I believe Oliver copped a stop go earlier. potentially having the pace over Rad, and by potentially, I mean they definitely have the pace over Rad. They're looking for a bit of a move as they go to the corkscrew, but it's not going to be quite there this lap for them. But wow,
Rad just gets a slip on the middle of the corner. I've seen that happen quite a few times to McLaren. It's as far as I know, it's pretty easy if you're running low TC. Just if you hit that power at the wrong moment, the car will just completely step out and send you into a spin, which is what happened to John, unfortunately, for him there, because that would have been a fairly entertaining battle.
You know what, Aiden? I actually played Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64. That's how old I am. I was very young when I played it, though. But yeah, the McLaren.
Did they have color TVs back then, or was that still?
Not quite that old, mate. It was still the old AV cables, the old red, white, and yellow. Very nostalgic, I guess. But I mean, Glenn's laughing because Glenn is probably nearly double my age anyway.
All right, so Giacomin is pulling back onto the back of Name maybe in the last few laps. We'll have to see. I think I just noticed, yeah, there it is. So the gap 3.9 seconds. We'll see if it comes down as George Sicanius comes into the pits from the lead. So he's going to do a splash and dash for the last 12 minutes. That is the length of one fruit bowl, as Nathan Monks would say. So he's going to do a fruit bowl's worth of fuel in the car right now. And yeah, he's got to sit there, but I don't know where he's going to come out exactly. Although with the fixed refueling time, yeah, I'm not sure if going this long was the play, but I guess we'll have to see.
I don't think it matters too much unless you've got traffic sort of happening, and I don't think Sicanius was in too much traffic really. Because like at the end of the day, the tire wear's the same, and the fuel, like, it's up to you if you want to run the full fuel and run that long. I guess it gives you the flexibility to potentially run that long if you do have the clean air. But yeah, Graham Hill in chat absolutely putting a date on their age, I guess, with the Commodore 64. So that's pretty old.
Is it bad that my first Nintendo was a 3DS?
Oh my god, you're a baby.
Yeah, I know.
I did actually play the Super Nintendo, but I was very, very young. That was, you just play because your older siblings are playing and you want to do what they are doing. But for now, we actually have a bit of a race on our hands. Giacomin bringing his turn on the afterburners. Last lap of 28, though, interestingly, but I wonder if Names had a bit of an incident. So see, it's 10 minutes to go, 3 seconds. It's a bit of an ask, but we'll see what Giacomin can pull out.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty normal to start to see fading at the end of a race, especially 60 minutes of pure concentration like you need in the wet at this track. There's not much room for error because it's all sand around the track. So, I mean, having a little bit of fade towards the end of the race is definitely understandable. We'll just see if Name can keep up enough pace to keep Giacomin behind him. I would dare say that he will. Just because 3 seconds is quite a bit when you're looking at two drivers of this caliber. As we see, yeah, the gap just dropping by a tenth or two every sector. So yeah, maybe Name's having some issues now. Not sure what they would be because tyre wear probably shouldn't be a factor, but yeah.
I mean, it might just be a bit of a concentration thing as well. When you've been kind of running by yourself, you can fall into bit of a bit of a lull, and you just lose concentration. We saw Babby actually last race had their own incident all on its own, and it let Benefield through, and the gap was relatively healthy, so it can definitely happen. Whoa, a lot of sand there.
Yeah, I've been noticing Giacomin does like to put two wheels on the sand, which you can kind of do on some corners, as long as you keep the steering fairly straight. and you take in a lot of momentum, it's not too bad. So yeah, last lap was a 27.4. I didn't quite catch what Name is doing right now, but we'll have to see what Name is doing to get an idea of if he's gaining. So yeah, so roughly the same lap time. Oh, sorry, that's best time. Definitely not the same lap time.
It's about 3/10, as you were saying. It's about a tenth a sector right now. Someone who's better than math at me could figure it out, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's not going to be quite enough.
No, because you also have to pass them, which is difficult here. Passing is obviously another beast entirely on this track where there's not too many opportunities. So even if you can close the gap, you know, getting past for the position is also very difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, Name is not going to make that easy whatsoever.
Just see Name go a little bit wide into the corkscrew. There is blue flag traffic in front of him, I believe.
Yeah, that's gamble, but yeah, so that mistake has actually cost Name quite a bit. That was about 6 or 7 tenths there just alone. So, I mean, we said it's not possible, but if he's going to make mistakes like that, then the door is still slightly ajar for Giacomin to wedge himself in there. We have lost Daryl Lim. They opted to pull out. I mean, I understand. We're 1.6. That's interesting.
Yeah, that gap is really dropping now. I'm not sure if maybe Name is having hardware issues or something's gone wrong, because as far as I've seen so far this season, this is not really the Name that I have grown used to seeing.
No, not at all. So I do wonder if there is a bit of an issue. You know, the old cat playing at the wires in your feet and you've lost force feedback or something like that.
Or he could be doing it for the content and just letting him catch up, and then, you know, they'll give us a nice entertaining battle for the last few laps.
I don't think anyone wants that kind of heartache, to be honest. But yeah, Lim opting to pull out, and I do understand at this point in the race, because you've RTG'd, you're like a full lap down. There's only 16 cars to compete against, so a bit of a rough go. It's a pretty easy mistake to make. Well, you would know, Aiden, but there's a few different things that can go into it. So it's 1.1.
I wouldn't know, actually. I wouldn't, because I've never done it. So
I guess starting on slicks is different, but what's
Scamble gets out of the way now, going down the straight. Hopefully he's going to let both cars pass. Yes,
it's
he
just
does.
Name is just bleeding time here. I don't understand. 128.6. Giacomin's doing like 27.5s. So it's
maybe
nearly
he's underfueled and he's fuel saving because he's not going to make the end. That is the only thing I could possibly think of.
You're a genius. You're the best analyst of all time. That makes so much sense. Oh, yoy. And we thought it was over.
Yeah, I mean, everyone can make the mistake of not putting in enough fuel. I'm sure we've all done it before. That would be my guess as to why Name is slowed down off the pace quite a bit in the last few laps. We might have to run on board with him to see if he's short shifting or doing any proper fuel saving measures, as well as his engine map. But yeah, Luca Giacomin really pushing the car now. So he doesn't seem to be... He's revving it out in 4th, which is not what you do if you're fuel saving. But we'll have to see the full lap. Yeah, he seems to be revving it out, so...
You might just be relying on the engine map, though. You can't...
Yeah,
his
maybe
map
fuel map.
1, but I don't know if you can actually count on that in terms of spectators. Oh, catching a bit of sand there.
I think you need to bring up the UI to be able to see that. As he goes deep into the final corner. Giacomin, you can see in his mirror right there. So 6 tenths behind. Going to put the pressure on for the last roughly 3 or 4 laps we'll have of this race.
Oh, yeah. So 28 flat, so it's a bit better than the last one. But Giacomin is having a look at the inside. I'm not sure if they're actually side by side. Move your bloody hand.
That exit part.
Oh, Giacomin just having a look, and they come together.
Oh, there's contact. Although they both keep it side by side.
They're alright.
Giacomin slots back in, knowing, I think he realizes that was probably a bit too aggressive.
I think Giacomin needs to chill out just a little bit. He has the pace absolutely to get past name right now. He just needs to pick a slightly better moment than that. There's still about 3 laps to go, so just take a breath, reset, and assess the move, and then make it happen. Because that was dicey, and I think he could have.
Or as he hits the curb going onto the Rahal straight, very easy to do close behind, and that'll drop him way back. I don't think he'll be challenging for that position anymore. Pretty much very similar to what we saw. I think it was Ben Vintner do, as he has another moment on the apex of the corkscrew. So yeah, when you're close behind someone coming into that corner, it's very easy to just tap that curb or go a little bit wide, because it's incredibly difficult to see. It's very unlucky for Luca Giacomin, possibly rushing to get the pass done in that first sector, and maybe it's just put him off a little bit, and unfortunately that is going to be the end of his challenge to Admiral Name, who surely at this point will come across the line to finish the race in the lead with, I think, 3 laps to go now.
What? Oh my, I can't believe that played out like that. It just literally is like, let's just take a break, reassess, and pick the moment, and then
you really cursed him there. I don't think you could curse him any better than that one.
Oh, I don't know if I'm taking that. And I guess
you just told him to relax, and then he's just gone. And, yeah. Anyway, as it's your money is well and truly gone as well, with your driver selection in 15th, and Martin looking like he will pick up the Pro-Am win as well as the Am win. So well done to him.
That's a pretty nicely done. He got himself back up into the top 10. I mean, obviously there's 16 drivers, so whether you feel super good about that, regardless, but it's a pretty good recovery.
I've also just noticed Barker is getting within a second of Sakanias for P5, which would be an interesting battle to go on board with for the last few laps.
But yeah, you know what's the worst thing is that Glenn and I didn't even put money on that. I just said that Glenn was going to owe me $5 if it happened, and now look at me. I'm in shambles again.
Miller's just picked up a DT as well, I guess, for track limits. Yeah, unfortunate. Right in the closing moments of this race, that feels terrible to do that, which I've also done on the final lap, on the final corner of Valencia earlier in the season. I decided to do a drift, and the game was like, no, you're not allowed to do that, and gave me a drive-through, so that was really cool. But yeah, as we see Barker on the back now of Sakanias, we'll see if Sakanias can hold Barker off. That Ferrari does look pretty racy from what we saw from Luca Giacomin challenging Admiral Name.
Yeah, so it looks like we should have another lap after this. So these guys have this lap and then the next to finalize their positions for this race. But Barker, absolutely, yeah, just closing that gap sector by sector. We'll see if Sakanias can hold on or if it is Barker's to claim.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, getting past is always a challenge here. So we'll have to see if Barker can get past, as well as obviously the McLaren is a bit stronger than the Ferrari on the straight, so Barker will probably have to force the issue as he pulls out behind Sakanias, just trying to put him off. As they go up on the run to the corkscrew, Barker seems to have a run. He might go for a move here. He's getting squeezed off the track side by side, or very close. That was could have ended very badly. Squeezing someone like that is quite risky, as obviously when they're on a slippery curb, as soon as they hit the brakes, the car could just snap. So very difficult for them to both keep it going straight, but they have. As we go into the final lap, I bet Barker is going to try his best to get past on this final lap here as they go down the main straight.
Yeah, I mean, it's now or never, but hopefully the move is a little bit calculated at least. I'm talking at least give me a 2+2, David, please. I'm begging you. No throwing it down without thinking about it. But we shall see as we get this lovely on board. Here the cars roar through the...
Mate, the Ferrari does not roar, I'm sorry. It sounds like an absolute vacuum cleaner.
Okay, look, here's the thing. I don't know if people know this, but we don't have sound when we commentate. there's no sound, and I don't talk about the sound very much. And sometimes I'll just say it, I'll just throw it out there because I'm sure it's doing something, and you've just completely ruined that illusion for me, Aiden. So thanks for that.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Barker's just dropped a little bit of time through turn 5, I think it is, as they come onto the Rahal straight. Both skirting wide, both sliding it through the final corner, as Barker's definitely going to try something here. They're going side by side. Barker's going to brake late, and there's contact on the entry to the corner. Barker, I think, has just tapped the side of Sicanius going into the corkscrew, and I think that is going to end Barker's challenge for P5. Sicanius looks like he's going to hold on to it. I doubt the stewards would do anything about that, as the positions were held, so I don't think anything's going to come Barker's way. But yeah, Sicanius will finish in front. Vintiner in front of him with Collini third, Giacomo second, and Amaral named taking the win.
I mean, we don't really have to, the race is over, but it did feel potentially like there was a bit of a squeeze under braking there from Sicanius, but it really, like, the view that we had was really not conducive to seeing that. So we'll see if there's anything to be said there, but unfortunately Barker not able to get that one quite done despite the pace. Beyond Barker, we have Hislop in 7th, Bishop in 8th, Mateen in 9th, and Dylan Gamble rounding out your top 10 for a split green. It's a pretty interesting race. It was relatively settled through the mid part, but I think Admiral Name, I'd love to know. I'm going to add him in the Discord if that was a fuel situation. But yeah, who's your shout for drive of the day, Aiden?
Oh, it's probably got to be Mateen for, I know he might not fit the Ambil, but he came back from a fairly decent sized incident to still finish in the top 10, so well done by him for that.
Yeah, very, very fair. I think I'm going to give it to Admiral Name. I'm actually picked both winners for both splits tonight, which is interesting. I don't normally do that. However, both you and Tim did sort of pick the similar, like, AM class overachieving. But
I mean, it's what we expect from Name, right? We expect a class performance. So.
He did lose the position earlier and then regained it and then managed to maintain despite, I'm pretty sure, not having the fuel. So I'm giving him the shout. But for our final standings, it's Admiral Name from Luca Giacomin, from Damiano Thurcolini. Your overall. For your silver class, it's going to be Sicanius from Hislop from Bishop. And for your Pro-Am class, it is going to be Gamble from Tanner from Rad. Bit of a race to forget for the Pro-Am class, to be honest. And for your Am class, I owe Glenn $5 because Mateen finished in front of Fadilla. And that is all she wrote for Split Green. Any closing thoughts on that one, Aiden?
No closing thoughts. Just a reminder to everyone that the GT4 series is on tomorrow in the split blue slot. And then after that will be split red. I believe the GT4s are at Spa, and the GT3s are obviously at the same track in roughly the same conditions. So make sure everyone to tune in to tomorrow, and thanks to Simrigs for sponsoring this series.
Just an amendment. I'm pretty sure they're at Zolder, not Spa.
Oh, Zolder. I must have seen the Belgian flag and thought, Spa. But
yeah.
No, it's Zolder.
One of the Belgian tracks of all time. But thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in tonight. Hopefully we catch you tomorrow, but otherwise have a pleasant evening.
See you guys. Have a good one.